Danika, how have you been?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. All good, keeping busy, and just come from the women's game yesterday, so can't complain. Keeping on the ball.
We'll touch on it later, but how much growth is there in the game still to come yet? Because it's getting pretty big now, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we've got to take the marginal gains as we get them, and where the game's going is brilliant. But I reckon we've still got a good 5 years to try and even catch up with the Southern Hemisphere at least, and that comes from invested interest from sponsors, from people wanting to watch the game, just getting the crowds at games and the spectators, I think, is massive as well. So still a fair way to go, and I think 5 years might sound a little bit extreme, but I think it's reasonable, and the slow progression is what we need. We don't want loads of massive stuff straight away, because I just don't think it'll be sustainable then.
Yeah, no, that's it. So before we get stuck into your rugby story, where was home for you and who lived at home with you as a kid?
I'm Horsforth. I'm Leeds, a little towny village out just outside the centre of Leeds. My mum and, I think more importantly, my three brothers, the only girl in the family. So super influenced by my two older brothers, and I've got one younger. So I had to fight my own battles growing up, shall we say.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you touched on it a little bit, but competitively at home then growing up, was it always there?
Always. Whether it be, like we're a big family, so we were never allowed to leave the table until everyone finished. And if somebody knew they wanted to watch a TV program, somebody take a really long time. Like, we were as pathetic as that. If you left the room, you were the first in the room, you got charge of the remote, and if you left the room, you lost it. So we'd like keep a foot in the door whilst reaching around the kitchen to try and grab it. I think back, and I was like, yeah, it was a bit mental, and you'd think as the only girl I'd get away with loads of stuff, but no. My oldest brother, my youngest brother were always the winners.
Mate. I won't want to play Monopoly with you.
No. You don't want to play any games. Football and rugby were bad enough.
Yeah. So when you're in and around that, then was a ball always in the back garden or on the front, and that was
Yeah, I didn't have much time to do the whole Barbie, My Little Pony kind of stuff, especially if I wanted, to join in with them. So it was out on these typical things. I'm old enough to be that person where the street light came on and you knew that you had to be back inside. And it was always cops and robbers or football or a bit of rugby. My oldest brother was part of like the real original Leeds Runners Academy before Jonesy and Kevin and that. An unfortunate accident at 19 where he kind of smashed his patella and meant that he no longer could play. And then always big into sports. As a kid, I picked to support Manchester United just because the other three all supported Prem teams. My oldest brother was Aston Villa. Then my next one was Arsenal, and my youngest was Norwich, and they were all in the Prem at the same time. So I just picked the team they all hated the most because they were the most successful. And even to the point where at Christmas we didn't have much money, but I made sure my biggest present was a Man U shirt.
Class.
I couldn't even.
They're random sides, them, aren't they?
Yeah, and I couldn't even name 5 of the team in the Man U side now.
Yeah.
No idea. But yeah, my mum grew up in Birmingham, so I think that's why my oldest brother picked Villa. Right. And my brother Andy's he's still an Arsenal fan now. The other two aren't. They're Leeds fans through and through, but my brother Andy is still an Arsenal fan.
Right. So how was you introduced to rugby outside of the house, and who was your first club?
It was primary school. So my oldest brother Carl, he had to do some like coaching for his like sports leadership type of stuff, and came back to my primary school and did rugby league with my teacher, Mr. Llewellyn. And that's where I kind of I'd always been a fan, but that's where I put my hands on the ball for the first time. And me and my friend Amy were the two girls. Actually, the local authority had to come and watch because they said girls cannot play rugby with boys at any age, and they said come and watch these two girls in Leeds hold their own. So we were part of the policy that moved girls being able to be part of a mixed team up to the age of 11.
So right, okay, that's a nice little
claim to fame. Yeah,
I like that.
Shows how long ago it was that I was in primary school, doesn't it?
No, because it's. I remember touched on it a few times with previous guests. Can't remember the lady's name, I'm afraid, but she played for Salford Town team when we were coming up, and she was probably one of Salford's best players. And then obviously at that age, then she just went, and you could notice like the dip in their standard.
Yeah, that was
but
it.
I don't know whether she carried on playing. Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun for sure.
Yeah. No, that's a nice little scout. That
Yeah.
should be on your LinkedIn bio or something.
No, can you imagine? Imagine I
That-
made sure that girls could play in the mixed team. I don't think anybody cares now. There's so many girls teams now, isn't there?
Yeah, well, it's good though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I said, there weren't many when I was growing up, so I'm only a little bit younger than you, and there's that girl from Salford was the only one that stands out, sort of thing, and she was
Yeah.
really good. Like, just hope she kept playing. But so, what was school like then? When these people come and watched, was you allowed to play then in year 6? Would it have been
Yeah,
year
it was year
5?
five, and year 6. I think year 6 they came to watch. And initially, because the school were mocked, so the lads that we used to play against, all of the primary schools, like, oh, you've got girls on your team. And we absolutely battered the rubbish out of them. And then we were kind of had a bit of a name. We got a bit of a name for ourselves in year 5 and 6, me and my friend Amy. And then I ended up going to high school with quite a lot of the lads from like the surrounding schools, because obviously it's the same similar catchment area, isn't it? And then as soon as we got to high school, there wasn't any rugby league, and there wasn't really a rugby league team at school that we could play on. And then obviously at high school, there wasn't the whole thing where you could do mixed teams, and there was no team. So it kind of died a death a bit, really. So I picked up every other possible sport that I could do.
Yeah. So was you always going to play something?
Yeah, I'd said from a really young age, I'm either going to be in the Olympics or I'm going to represent England. Obviously, with my name, my grandparents are Estonian, so I've got Eastern European roots, and I knew that was always an option, but I always said I was going to play for my country. So I started at football, started playing football, and was on the football team, netball team, hockey, swimming, athletics, the dance team. Literally, you name it, I played it. And I tried everything. I did everything I could, and we just didn't really have. To be fair, it was the time of like the talent scouting stuff. So if you were tall, rowing came to find you, or if you were tall, volleyball came. And I went and tried bobsled, rowing, volleyball. It was that like talent lottery talent pathway thing. But then we never had the money. Like we were proper typical like council estate poverty kids where we didn't have the money to do anything else. So there was never really an option. So I just played for school teams.
Right, and so when you're in and amongst these sports, because is it a bit clicky? Have they been in it since like they come out the womb, sort of thing? Is it just have they been brought up in that sport?
Yeah, like I've just been brought up like having 3 brothers. Like it was always rough and tumble. It was always do or die. But I ended up going into dance from probably like 13, 14. I went into the dance side, the typical cliche thing, because at school that's what all the other girls did. And as much as I played every other sport, and I played all the sports, that was the thing to do. And that was the one after school club that we didn't need funding for, and we could go and compete properly. I was getting proper training. And dance is horrendously clicky. Like it's, as you can imagine, you've got to be a certain look and a certain way, and you've got to be a little bit out there to push yourself to the front and perform. And don't get me wrong, I'm no shrinking violet, but I'm just not competitive in that sense that if you want the limelight, go for it. Like I enjoy what I do. So it's never. Sports can be clicky. Like you're part of a team, aren't you? You've got to be part of that team. But I didn't find that until later on in years, just because I just played for every sport, and I played football with the lads in the playground, and that was just how it was.
Yeah. So did that help the transition into high school for you?
Yeah, big time, massively so. And I think I knew quite a lot of the people, because I've been around like a lot of the primary schools and playing for them. You kind of you meet the same people, don't you? And then we all went to the same high school, and then I played for at least for year 7 and 8. Year 9, when I started to kind of hit the the puberty adolescent type of style, it kind of went a little bit wayward. But still kind of always kept doing, because it was also a massive outlet for us. Now, doing after school clubs meant that we stayed at school a bit longer, which was better than going home sometimes. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So,
it's just the way it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. So there was something to do, and it was free, and it was you was with your mates, and that's how it was. And if you got to go a fixture away from school and you're away an extra hour, bonus. In year 10, I represented the school's European Championships. I went over to Barcelona to play. So we played a tournament, and I've played at the Nou Camp Stadium for football. I
Yeah.
played at the original Wembley for football.
Class. Yeah.
So like I took it all seriously. I was, school's champion at stereotypically shot put. Good old Eastern European roots that I had. High jump. I swam competitively for the city. So yeah, I was just had and then my dancing really took over probably year 10. So when I was about 15, dance really took over, and I kind of focused on that a little bit more. But then when I went to sixth form, I changed school at sixth form as well, and I ended up being sports girl of the year, and I was kind of the sports captain for the school for the houses and stuff. So I've always had a passion for it, and always knew I'd do something sport related. And I think ultimately I always knew I'd be a sports teacher, because what other job would I do that I'd love so much? So it was kind of forged in me from a very early age.
Right. And was there any club sport for you through school?
Apart from dance, not really. I've played a little bit at Leeds Vixens, which then turned out to be Leeds United. So I did that, and then I ran at Skyrack Athletics Club. But
so when
was mainly it.
Sorry, yeah. So do you know when you're in the club environment, which did you find more competitive for you? Did you prefer the school stuff, or did you like the out of school stuff more?
Probably school stuff, because I think there was a pressure on the out of school stuff having there was always a monetary pressure there, if that makes sense. And I've only recently been comfortable with saying all of that, and and saying that's how it was. But at the time, you never want to admit that you've got no cash or no money, do you? So I'd quite often not quit, but I'd probably avoid going if something either needed paying, or people got new boots, or I needed new stuff. And I'd probably, instead of going and being like, oh, I need some help, I'd probably just avoid going and put my focus elsewhere. So it was more of a coping mechanism really than anything else. And I think,
so you used to hide the letters home, basically, didn't you?
Yeah. And I think if I'd have had money, if the family ever had money, like shoulda, woulda, couldas, whatever, sliding door style, that maybe I would have been an Olympic athlete, or I would have gone on to do something crazy like bobsleigh and stuff. But it is how it is, isn't it? And that's just the way it works. So I don't regret anything, but I always wonder what if.
Yeah. And knowing what you know now, all them little attributes you can pick up from them sports, because you're extremely versatile. When you're in the sport, do you realise that they've all helped you become the player you was, or is it when you've stepped away that, mate, because you're all over YouTube and stuff, would you see little things where you think, I've got that from shot put? Or
I definitely think like the dance and the rugby and the football all kind of intertwined a little bit weirdly, because I'm light on my feet. I was a big prop, especially like in my era of props, like, especially when I went to like the World Cup style. I was still carrying probably 15 kgs more, but I could still move. I could still use my feet. And I remember my England coach saying, you've got to use your dance footwork. You've got to make sure you get shorter. And he could say stuff and I could just pick it up and do it. Similarly with like the football, moving the ball around my feet, I was much more lighter and agile on the ball. So, and I played left wing in football. So I was always quite fast, even though I was quite big. So yeah, I think they all definitely intertwined. And I think just having that mentality, like I've got such a drive to be the best. And I think that comes from having 3 brothers, and bettering yourself and being the best you can be. So never settle for just going and doing. I'd want to know why or how, or well, why can I control the ball better, or how can I get off my front better, and how can I play the ball quicker, or whatever. So yeah, there was definitely always maybe a slight hidden drive to kind of just be better.
Yeah. And could you play with both feet?
Yeah. For football I did. Yeah. Right. So I just think, again, football was one of those that as you got to a certain level, it started to cost more to, like, there was days of like the subs and the game fees. And, I had to get a job when I was I didn't have to, but I got a job at like 11, 12 to bring some money into the house. So I was working technically to help, that's as bad as we were. We were like the pinnacle of like, poverty. And I think this day and age, schools probably would have picked up on it more and would have supported it more. But we're talking early 2000s. It just wasn't a thing. So and money just went elsewhere. So it went, even the football side of stuff, when that started getting a bit, more intense and just having to spend 20, 30 quid on a pair of boots. That's like 2 weeks shopping for us. So it was just for us.
I know. Do you know what's mad? We've probably grew up when like you used to hide an Aldi bag so your mum couldn't send you to school with an Aldi bag. And like now
Yeah,
they're
the
selling
Netto
clobber.
ones are bright yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
That was the day.
now they,
That was the days that Leeds Market, like Leeds Market was the cheapest place to go, but you'd like run through with your mum on a week and you'd be like, damn, remember the greengrocers shouting about the bananas and stuff, and we used to go get like massive, and then it wasn't even fashionable. Now everyone's in the market, and I'm like,
yeah.
you know what? Either have a
You
bit
get
more about you.
flashbacks.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like I'm
Yeah.
quite confident in being like, oh yeah, well I don't. But then you couldn't even own it, could you then? You couldn't even like be like,
No, that's it.
I do shop at the market and what? Because you just wasn't even worth the while, was it?
No, you get rinsed. Didn't go to school with an Aldi bag and that, and
Yeah.
all the bucket hats and everything, aren't they?
I know.
So it
Mental.
was because of your mentality regarding taking an expense home, whether it was via a letter, whether it was progressing in sport. What levels did you hit before you started doing that, like rep stuff? So did you play any town team stuff in any sport?
No, not really. I think like getting to the European schools final in football, but that was for school, was probably the biggest thing. I again won loads of athletics in school, so therefore I got to go do some Yorkshire stuff. But it was always Yorkshire schools or North of England schools. So it was rep stuff, but it was always through the school program, which led on to club stuff. But again, that then led on to more fees. So it kind of always stopped. And then dance was the only thing that I then went out and did properly, because the dance teacher at the time was my dance teacher at school, and she gave me the free lessons. And then somebody's mum would take me to them. And on the days that I didn't have a lift, I'd probably walk. I think it was like 5.5 miles. I'd walk there and back just so I could go and dance for free.
Yeah.
And even when it came to the dance stuff, she'd give me dance shoes, and it was really funny because she was like the first person that really understood what my life was like, in the sense that it wasn't a bad, like, there's probably bits and pieces that everyone can, I don't ever look back on it negatively, but she'd give me my first pair of dance shoes and made sure I had like the proper trousers and stuff like that. And then when I played in the World Cup for England, she already flew out to Australia because she lived there for about 20 years before. And she came down and watched me in Sydney. So it was like one of them cyclical things of like, you might have given me a hand in a different sport, but actually that's helped me big time in this. So like a real turn of events.
Yeah, and that's probably the best reward that lady could get, was seeing you perform on the elite level, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then I went on to dance. I've danced like the Lambert in Bradford, which is huge. I danced at Disneyland Paris, Royal Albert Hall. Like I took dancing quite far as well. So I had my fair share in the dance kind of world, in pantomimes with the Lambert, like professional ones. So equally managed to make a bit of stuff from doing dance as well, and went on to teach dance, in a school and choreograph. And so I've had a bit of a career in dance thanks to her as well. So it's a little bit, I'm probably the only people that can say dance and rugby, they're elite sports.
When you think like it's like, I've obviously been guilty of it as well. You categorize people, don't you?
Yeah.
So like, without obviously looking into it and that before they ask you to come on, you think just rugby from birth to even what you're doing now, which we'll touch on later.
Yeah, but
you don't appreciate the middle, do you?
No, but I'm a big girl. Like I'm 5'8". I've never been slight. I've never been, I've been, even at my peak fitness, I've always been pretty weighty, and that's just muscle and stuff. So I'm not the smallest like person ever. So you just would assume it's got to be some kind of rugby or, like I say, shot put.
Oh yeah, and again, because like us fans are in that world.
Yeah.
You don't read about your dancing, do you? Read about your match reports or your punditry stuff and see it on. So no, it's you've certainly explored that side of life, and you've given everything a go, which you'd encourage kids to do now, regardless of boys or girls. You want to go out there and give things a go.
Yeah, well, I honestly thought, because of just the way I brought up, as much as I've had this big dream, like, and I'm talking, I dreamt of playing for my country from about 6 or 7 years old. Like, it's been a dream. So I thought when I went out to Barcelona and played for my school, I was like, I'll take that. Because how many people get to go to Barcelona? And the only reason I went out to Barcelona is because I remember sat in my PE teacher's office and I cried and I was like, well, we can't afford, because we had to pay obviously like a school trip.
Yeah.
And I think it was like maybe 200 quid at the time, which is cheap for a school holiday now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of money then, though. Yeah.
I remember sitting there just going, can't do it. Can't do it. And then they said, oh, we'll set up a payment plan, like £10 a month, which again was still quite a lot. I think by the time we came off, they kind of just scrapped it off. And I think we paid about 40, 50 quid to go. But credit to the school, because, you know, that otherwise I'd never have done that. So, but yes, I just thought that would be it. That would be my international honours.
Box tick.
Yeah. You know, playing at the biggest stadium in the world at you know, in Barcelona, and playing at Wembley, and we did this like Nike club. So I was meeting like Edgar Davids for Holland and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is it. I've made it. Like, that's fine. At 15 years old, I can say I've done it. And just kind of got a bit complacent about that. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
So when you're in these environments, and again a little bit about the attributes you picked up through the multiple sports you played, looking back now, do you think if maybe the school route and what we'll touch on in a bit was all through these nice little touches from certain teachers and schools and coaches and stuff?
Massively so. Like, so Jodie Doble was my dance teacher, and then ironically she went from my high school to my secondary school. She then left for a couple of years, and I ended up at the sixth form, because I moved in with my auntie in sixth form, and she lived in Bradford, and the closest school was Thornton Grammar, and she was working at Thornton Grammar by the time I got there. And I was a bit like, everyone was like, you've only moved because of her. And I think had I known, I probably would have gone anyway, but I didn't at the time. And it was just one of those like meant to be kind of things, because then through my sixth form, like I picked up dancing. That's when I really picked up dancing and started, like, I was working for the school teaching the GCSE dance and stuff like that, and doing loads of qualifications through the school, because I was offering so much time that the PE department, they put me through my sailing qualifications. I went on school camp and worked as a counsellor for them, did my dance qualifications, did sports leaders, like, again. So from her help and going into sixth form, and her saying that she's worthwhile kind of investing in, the staff then in my sixth form school kind of then gave me everything. And I carried on working at the school for probably like 5 or 6 years after I left, going on their school camps. And then when they needed supply, I'd go in and do dance supply after Jodie'd left, and I'd go in and do their sports weeks when I was going through uni. So they're kind of employing me, and every time there was a qualification, they'll call, you might as well jump on board and do this. And I don't think any school, like, I'm a teacher, I don't think any school would do that, but they saw potential. And I think because at the time, you don't see it as a gift and as a poor me, but you just see it as opportunity. And that's what I mean. Any opportunity I had, I was taking, and I was giving my all to, because I knew that I was really lucky to. And I think I've always, not humble's probably not the right word, but I knew that I come from a council estate that's very cyclical. So you have a baby, you go on benefits, they have a baby, and I never want to be in that. Never. And everybody from my street has, apart from me. And I remember that one of the people said when I went to sixth form, because obviously everyone kind of dropped out at like year 11, then was like, oh, you think you're a bit better than us, don't you? And I was like, no, I know I am. And that at the time probably sounded like a really bitchy comment, but I never meant it as that. I meant it as, I know I'm destined for, I don't know what it would be, but I'm not having a baby. I'm not going into that system, and I'm not living off the government. So bit of stubbornness, maybe. That's what's got me very far, is my stubbornness.
Yeah, a bit of everything, isn't it? You've seen an old generational trait, which, if we're honest, like, that's what council estate. I'm a council estate lad. That is how it does.
Yeah.
Just a part-time job here, or like, I don't know if they do. Remember Avon?
Yeah. Well,
like, mum's done Avon, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or sister's done Avon and that.
What was
that was like a council estate thing.
Avon and Betterware.
Was it Betterware? It was Avon though, weren't it?
It was Avon, and then there was another one, Betterware, which was like home, like tin openers and chopping boards, and it was the same principle as Avon, but yeah.
That's just what it was, wasn't it? Like, but people have brought, like, you can't this, you can't have a pop at some people because that's just the way their families forever worked, isn't it? And
Yeah.
the stereotypical men go out and then they expect the tea on after they've been in the pub on the way home from work.
Yeah.
You have the tea, they go back to the pub, and like it's just the way it was. But because you're so passionate about them key sports, was there anything else going to tick a box for you leaving school, or was you always going to go down that way? And where did you go?
So there was part of me that wanted to, I've always been keen in animals. So my first job that I spoke about was in a dog kennels and cattery. So I thought, if I'm not involved in sport, I'm going to be involved in veterinary care. But I just didn't have like the support at home to do, but I did all right. I'm intelligent, but do you know, like these days your kids might be saying like, go and do revision and stuff. My mum wasn't really around when I was hitting my exams. So I never sat and did anything, and I got results from a wing and a prayer and just being naturally intelligent, but could have done so much better had I just worked a bit harder. So veterinary care was always something else. But then when I got to sixth form, I had to lie my way into sixth form because I'd missed off one grade to get into the sixth form and do the subjects I wanted to do. And even then they took a punt on me, because I remember my head of sixth form, Kev Matthews, pulled me on the last day of sixth form and he was like, I know you lied your way in. And I was like, oh, and he was like, worked though, didn't it? And I was like, so I've kind of been that person that's like, talked my way out of a situation or talked my way into a situation. And I think back now and I'm like, should have been a criminal or something, shouldn't I? Be more lucrative.
Yeah.
So I had to so I was intelligent if I'd worked hard enough, but I just didn't. And I was enjoying my sports and having fun too much time. And, you know, like typical when you get to sixth form, you find going out, and I was a bit older. So there's that side. But when I left school and I went straight to uni, initially, I did sport and exercise science and medicine at York. Don't know why I picked that side of it. No, absolutely no practical at all. Because I could move away from home, but I was always that safety that I wasn't too far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was never really that close to my mum. Like, I was close to my brothers in the sense that we used to play, but I had nothing to stay at home for. But not having the financial backing was always a bit scarier going further away. At least if I all went to pot, I was close enough to get home.
Fall back.
Yeah. So always like a little bit savvy in the sense that if it does go wrong, at least I can dive back. And after I did that, I was like, I want to be a teacher. And I'm like, you've got no pedagogy. You can't get onto a teaching degree. You can do biology. You can do maths. You can do all the sciences. But you can't do PE. And I was like, what, be a geek? And that was,
Yeah.
God forbid, I'm a maths teacher now, so I eat my own words. So after doing my degree, and that's where I picked up playing rugby union. At uni at York. I just went to York and I was like, what can I do? I'd done the dancing. I'd kind of been through the whole going to an audition and stand there and being told I was too fat or I was too tall or I wasn't working hard enough.
You get told that?
Yeah. Oh, dance is brutal.
Are they brutal? Is it?
Yeah, I remember I was because I'm classically trained, so ballet. So I was in a leotard and tights and holding onto a bar, which is like the bar that you hold onto when you do exercises. And this ballet teacher came up to me. And she had a cane in her hand. Genuinely, she tapped me. There are 3 bumps on a dancer's body: their bun, their boobs, and their bottom. Sort yourself out. And I'm like, 17 years old, like the height of like body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I was like,
as much as it is. Yeah.
And instead of crumbling and probably succumbing to the pressures of that, I just went, no, not for me. And then that's when I went into like choreographing, and that's when I loved dance again. And I came off the stage and I did a couple of bits and pieces, but went back into choreographing. But when I went to York, I was like, what can I do? I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I want more social, and somebody went, try rugby. Always loved rugby. So kind of, I wasn't new to it in the sense that like, I'm a ballet dancer going to rugby.
Yeah.
And it was rugby union. I was like, I don't really know the rules, but what can I do? Played my first game for York against Hull in the varsity. Won man of the match or player of the match or whatever. I'm not very PC. Still man of the match for me.
Right. Yeah.
Don't faze me. Won a man of the match from our team. Won opposition of the match. And they said, stand on this table and down 2 pints. And I was like, okay, I found it.
Gonna be.
I found it. And I was like, absolutely winning. And that from there is kind of where I fell in love and left York, left playing rugby because at the time I didn't really know where I was going to end up.
Yeah.
Ended up back in Leeds and knew I still wanted to be a PE teacher. So that's when I went to Leeds Met, or Leeds Beckett, it's now called. I still call it Met.
Yeah. Yeah.
Picked it back up again, started playing for my local club, which was West Park RUFC. And after the first year, I started playing for Yorkshire. And the second year, I was captain of Yorkshire. So by 2010, 11, I was doing proper rep rugby in the sense that it was Yorkshire county stuff. And then, north of England.
So all rugby union at this point.
Yeah, so I played alongside the likes of Emily Scarrett and Vicky Fleetwood, who play for England, and Jenny Maxwell and Lisa Coburn, who play for Scotland. So we had a really strong team. Played at Twickenham 3 times in the Bucks finals. So really had a really great ride with rugby union. Played in the European Sevens tournament. Not a Sevens player. But then thought that was my calling, and even had talks with the England performance unit for rugby union and about moving clubs and having to play for Darlington or Lichfield, which were both a 3-hour round trip for training twice a week. And this was a year before the central contracts came in.
Right.
Nah, I'm not driving again. Love the sport, but I was like, I'm not, 6 hours on the road every week plus a Sunday game, which could be London or wherever. And then I say fortunately or not, I snapped my ankle. So I had to take 18 months out anyway, because I had my ankle completely reconstructed.
Okay.
Which was over 2013, which was when I was watched, just before I did my ankle, was watched by the England Rugby League coach, Chris Chapman.
Right.
So quite a curveball.
Yeah, was that, how had you been with injuries before that?
Nothing. Never. I'd done
So you just went big first.
Rugby. Yeah, typical rugby, fingers and toes and bumps, and never, touch wood, I've never broken my nose. Because I always used to say, if I break my nose, I'm going to quit. Cracked my teeth. Just the typical general bumps and sprains and twists. But yeah, I managed to snap my ankle on the day of the first ever ambulance strikes. So, if you're going to do it.
Literally so far you've done nothing by half, have you?
No.
Just everything's 100% and 100 mile an hour.
Well, I've played with my ankle. I didn't know how bad my ankle was because I didn't get it checked out properly. It was so swollen that for about 3 months, people were like, we can't x-ray it properly. There's nothing we can do until we get this swelling under control. So I was like, fine. So about 6 months later, strapped it up and started playing again, partly because the team were at Twickenham. And then it was when I played at Twickenham and I thought we'd strapped it. We didn't really have physios at the time. We had sports therapists. Yeah. And I got tackled and it completely came out and it was like hanging off the side of my foot. And I was like, nah, nope, I don't think it's attached anymore. I think it's gone. And then I finally had it reconstructed, but it still took another year to get it reconstructed. So I was kind of at it I did it 2011 and I didn't get it. So I did it November 2011 and I got it fixed April 13. And I played probably about 5 or 6 games of that. And 5 or 6 games I probably played on it.
So, environment-wise, how did you find school environment compared to further education environment?
First uni, I kind of felt like a fish out of water. Like I liked the sports side was the only thing that kept me there. Yeah. The course was boring. It wasn't boring. It was interesting, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I think I'd picked like a medicine science course just to annoy everybody and be a bit of an up yours, because what's the worst thing you can do as a council kid that's told you too good for everybody? I'm going to do medicine and science. Yeah. And that was probably my stubbornness again. But so I didn't really enjoy my course. I didn't want to be at uni. And the rugby was the only thing that kept me there. And that was the only kind of the thing. So the jump was massive. I was in a super safe bubble at school, aren't you? Like everything's protected, whereas at uni it's a bit of a free for all. And I think that jump was massive for me. So my first one I didn't like at all. When I went to Leeds Met, best time of my life, like the best years. And because we were kind of putting a bit of at the time it was kind of called the elite program. We had strength and conditioning at 7:30 on a Tuesday morning, and I thought, wow, this is professional environment. I've got Jess Ennis-Hill training in the same gym as me, the Brownlee brothers doing the strength and conditioning in the same gym as me. I was like, what's better than this? Like, and I kind of, I'd always aspired to obviously be that elite athlete, but it's never that I doubted myself. I just didn't think that I'd have, and because I wouldn't move from Leeds to Birmingham or Leeds to Newcastle to play rugby union, that was as far as it would go for me, because at the time I was just coming out of uni, get myself a job again. I couldn't afford just to up sticks, and I probably could have done, but there's an element of me being really stubborn and gung-ho, and there's a real I'll also play safe, try everything, but make sure there's a backup. So I think that was always my backup. So I think, at uni, I just had the best time. And we were elite and we were playing at elite. But as soon as that Wednesday game, because it was always Wednesday afternoons, as soon as Wednesday happened, we spent Thursday and Friday out on the lash. And then on a Sunday, I'd play for my club, and we'd kind of like, Saturday was playing, Sunday play, have a few beers on a Sunday after the game, back in training for uni on a Monday, training for club on a Tuesday. Well, Tuesday morning was uni, Tuesday night was club, playing for uni on a Wednesday afternoon, and that was the cycle for nearly 3 years. So I'd gone into a professional environment as much as it could be, in the sense that I had routine and I had training and I had expectations, but I was also getting a few good bevs in as well. So I had the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And when you're in a rugby environment, how did you find that compared to education environment?
There's no better environment. There's no better environment. Like, you're with your mates, with your family. And I didn't really, when people say, oh, your teammates are your family and stuff, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't get attached. I'm like, no. Like, some of the best people I've ever met, I met at uni. And if it wasn't playing rugby, it was just on the sports kind of circuit, because we all had the same kind of goal. And, being Leeds Met, we're pretty competitive, especially when it comes to playing against Leeds Uni and the whole varsity thing. So you make a bond with the girls around you as well. So the rugby environment or the sporting environment was second to none. And I'd go back into that in a flash. And, you go training, put message in the group, girls I'm off to the gym, 5 people turn up, girls I'm off for some food for lunch, 10 girls turn up. And I think that was, girls, I'm in the library, I've got a dissertation, who's got some work? And even the sports girls would come and sit around you at a table, and you'd all pretend to try and do your work, but you always had that support, and it always came from either your rugby or from another, the sports team. So I wouldn't have got through education had it not been for the sports.
Right. And union position wise, was you in the back row or at inside centre?
Started at prop just to ease my way. I say ease my way in, but it's pretty technical, isn't it, in the props for the union?
It is, yeah.
And then by the time I'd finished playing union, so that 2016, 17, I kind of finished, I was playing back row, second row, an 8, really.
Yeah. And what did you find tricky to start with? Everything, or was it just them little intricacies that probably rugby league fans overlook, don't they? Yeah,
I think I was never in a position where I had to do much ball handling. Mine was carrying. I am really strong carrier, and I'm really great in the union at the maul, so ripping the ball and getting hold of the ball, and it can be, that big battle, line outs, lift the girls up 10 times higher than anybody else, and it was always the cliche biffy strong stuff that was always my call. And the only thing in rugby union, I make a break, I get tackled, you're on the floor and you have to let go of the ball. No. So I never had the real freedom to do that side of stuff until I moved obviously to league. But I had some really great girls around me. Like I'm saying, I had a lot of the England girls around me. So you either picked it up quickly and you kind of got to their not to their standard, but you got up to a standard, or you kind of went to the second team. So there wasn't much time to think about what do I need to know. And I think like the tackle tech for me has always been a bit of an issue, because I've always grabbed, I've always been strongest. So I've never really had to put a shoulder in. And I think if I ever see Andy Dobson, she'd offer me £20 every game if I just tackle with my shoulder. But I never had to. I'd either bear hug and ride to the floor, or just push them, like literally pull them down. So I was never very good at tackling in either codes. So for me, I was never, and I was also never an English, and in union you're running a bit of a pack anyway, so you're always running like threes, just so you can look over and you can protect the ball. So just did the dirty hard stuff in union, never really focused on anything technical apart from getting behind the kicker and running really fast.
Yeah, well, that's the stuff that your teammates appreciate. The flashy stuff comes when you've done your bit, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And if you weren't, if you, I think you're being a bit harsh on yourself, but say defensively, you're not quite up to it on a day. If you're in the pack, you're around bodies, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you can sort of get away with it. A loose
and
tackle,
especially with union being on the line as well, you don't have to move too far, do you?
No, that's it. Like it's a pretty instant. It's there in your face constantly, isn't it? So
I just have to be big and like, as long as I stop the flow, and everyone else will come in and do the actual stuff. So I was all right, but I was never did any of them one-on-one spectacular big hits.
Yeah. Well, it probably would have got frowned upon at some point anyway, wouldn't it? So yeah. And when you're in and around them players, was there an ambition to hit that level before the big injury cut? You know, after you've had them talks and stuff.
Yeah, and because I was on the fringes, like getting county stuff and like getting captain of your county, like I'm Leeds, I'm Yorkshire through and through, like diehard. So captain in your county was massive for me, and then being on the North of England setup and stuff, and then having the England performance unit saying, look, you can play for England, but you just need to play for a Prem team. Yeah. I was like, this is probably it. And I thought and I was still quite new to rugby union, really. I've been playing properly, properly at club level for like 2-3 years. So I still felt quite new to it. But yeah, there was real and I was training with the England girls on a Tuesday and stuff in the gym, and on a Monday night, I knew how hard they worked. And obviously I would always want to work as hard as them. I'd be like, well, let me do your program then, or whatever it might be. And I'd always do extras, and I'd always go out. So I knew that I was capable of it. It just is about taking that leap of faith and moving to a club. And then I probably would have done the next season, because I'm also one of these people, I don't like leaving mid-season, regardless of what, I'm quite loyal, and whether that's a deterrent to myself or not. But probably the season after, I probably would have done it. But November was quite early on in the season, and the season didn't finish until May. So that injury, not really getting it fixed up, and put on quite a bit of timber because I wasn't able to do as much as I could do. I probably put on 15 to 20 kgs. So I'd gone big because I was still at uni, so I was still drinking. I just couldn't train as hard. Yeah. So coming back was never really an option, and I needed to get back into it and kind of get fit again.
Right. How did that hit you? Did you know it was serious when it first? So you'll know now, obviously through the career, you've had different pains, isn't there? There's a different instant reaction body wise. So did you know at that time how serious it was?
Yes and no. In the sense that I didn't appreciate how long it'll take to get back properly. I didn't appreciate how big an injury is, or what you have to do to get it back fit. And I never ever rehabbed my leg properly. I never rehabbed my ankle properly, and to this day it's still not great. But because at that point I wasn't, I missed playing for Yorkshire, and I missed all that stuff. But because I wasn't in the an England setup or anything like that, I don't think I really appreciated how bad the injury was. And because I was still teetering for uni, and we weren't looked after then, so it was a typical wet sponge type of thing. If I said I was fit to play, there was nobody to say actually she's not. There was no medical stuff, so technically I was still playing. And if it hurt, and if I wanted to play, just keep my mouth shut. Do you know what I mean? And then luckily, it was my final year of teaching, and we had a big, heavy teaching placement for 3 months. So I was actually taken out of uni and out of the environment for 3 months to go work in a school full time to get that part of my teaching degree. So I didn't ever feel too hard done by that one, not compared to my ACL, which we'll probably get on to. Compared to my ACL, it was completely different, and it probably was more like having a bit of a fractured arm that you get over in 6 weeks feeling, than it was a major reconstruction at the time. I don't understand why. I still don't really know why. Whether I didn't take it as seriously at the time. I mean, I've always been serious, but I did step up to be quite a bit of a psycho when I got into rugby league and into the England setup. So the comparisons are completely different.
Yeah, and plus you probably when with that age, the bounce back ability you feel's always there, don't you?
Yeah, and you're surrounded by great people, and and I was with my partner at the time, and that were really supportive, and I kind of just felt like I had everything around me anyway, and I was always going to train, and I was always doing bits and pieces anyway. I wasn't playing always, and then when I did my reconstruction, and I was in a cast for 3 weeks, so they'd done my reconstruction. I'd come out, the nerve block hadn't worked, started screaming, pumped me with a lot of morphine and collapsed my lungs. So I was in hospital for a week after my reconstruction. They put my cast on, had to leave it on for an extra week or two because of the mess of my leg, and then come out of a cast and went straight into a boot for 8 weeks. So, we're talking 3-4 months where I wasn't walking properly anyway.
Yeah.
So I was going along watching the girls and having a beer. So what, and then on that side of stuff, I'm not missing out because I'm with all the girls. There's a load of girls that used to turn up. We used to sit and have a few beers, watch the girls play, and best of both worlds.
Yeah. And I suppose if you're happy in your life off the pitch, then
that's it.
It sort of takes the place of the on pitch stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. That. So when you're doing was it still called the PCGE when you were doing it, Danika?
No, so I did a 3-year QTS course. So basically, to do a PGCE, I had to do a pedagogy unit for a year because I didn't do any teaching. Then you have to get onto a PGC, so that's 2 years. And it was so to get onto a PGC, there's 2,000 applicants for 20 places.
Right.
So, and then Leeds Met had a 3-year course, and I was like, well, instead of waiting a year and doing the 2 years anyway, I might as well just get on this 3-year course. And and that's why I'm so grateful I did that route. So I did a QTS secondary PE, so qualified teacher status in secondary PE, which I mean, I had the best. It was the best experience I could have had, and that's what got me into rugby, which ultimately got me into rugby league.
No, it's mad, isn't it? You said it before a little bit. Any opportunity you come, you just grabbed it with both hands and you've run with it and done what you can with it, haven't you, basically? And through, as you said, stubbornness, effort, support, you've got to exactly them boxes have been ticked, which we'll touch on soon, won't we? But it's just you haven't half done it. But do you know when you're hitting them marks like North of England stuff and captain in your county, which is massive, regardless of the standard, it's a big achievement. So I'm quite sentimental. So would you have kept the jersey, a programme? Yeah.
I moved just after lockdown, so I moved in October 2020. And I've got, the massive long underbed storage boxes. I had 2 of them plus a bag of stuff, and I was like, it's a little bit ridiculous. How can I, cut down on, I didn't need everything, but I'm a hoarder. I have got better. I've got rid of some of the stuff like tickets and stuff. I was like, maybe I don't need them, or I could maybe make a scrapbook. I'm like, well, what do you do with a scrapbook? So, but I've got my Leeds Met jersey that I played at Twickenham in. My West Park that I won the national championship with, my Yorkshire jersey, and then I think I've got one of every. I've not got every single jersey anymore. I've given some away and stuff, but the main ones, yeah.
You can't. I wouldn't be able to let them go. You've done
not hung up or anything. They're just literally in a box. They're just folded in a box. I'm not in the one that they plaster them all over and put them up, but I've kept them.
Yeah, now and then it's a nice walk through memories, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you know? I ask everyone it, and we've all had a little taste of big games, haven't we? But do you know when you're playing for your county as a captain and you're playing at these big arenas, stadiums, it's not just another game, is it?
No.
So how is a build up to them big games for you, especially in some of them stadiums you've played at?
I think the biggest one for me at that time was probably playing at Twickenham, and And it was the first, like I say, for me, it's a first taste of anything that I thought was elite. So we trained, we went down the night before, we went down the morning before, we got to train at Richmond, and we had a training session. Then we went out for a team meal. Then we were all staying in hotels. We got given hotel rooms that we had to be paired up in. And then we had T-shirts to go down in that were specifically printed, finalists, who you're playing, where you're playing, the typical date and time type of things. And this is all just for my uni. But that was a taste of, like, we went down on a really nice plush bus. Yeah, like the things that you just take for granted, really.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. I've only ever been on the bog standard bus, so you know.
But then, like, having your kit set up in the changing room beforehand, and taking we had to. My coach Dave Duxbury brought his son and his son's mate Dan Grange, who ended up working at Leeds Rhinos for quite a bit. He took them two down so they could run water on and stuff. So we had proper. It wasn't the players running the water on or anything like that, and proper game day breakfast and getting into Twickenham Stadium and having a set playlist and your positions in the changing room and warming up and having. I think I played the first time at Twickenham in front of 5,000 people because the university's final. So the university's just piled loads of people on loads of buses, £5 a ticket, cheap booze. It was mental. Don't know how many people saw the games because there was like the women's final and the men's final. But I was like, it's a big crowd. Big crowd.
It's a big ground as well. Like, it doesn't, it on telly, stadiums look big, but when you're in there, it's massive.
The run-off at Twickenham after the drop dead ball line is literally like this, and you slide down there, your legs are gone. Your legs are gone. I mean, I was never fast enough to carry on sliding, but it was one of those things.
Quicker than me.
Yeah, well, don't know now, but I think that was my first kind of realization that, like, this is a big game. And then you just change everything, don't you? You want to try your best to maintain your mentality of, like, trying to be normal, but but I'm the type of person I'd build up in my head anyway. I'd be like, this is a big game. Like, you should be bothered. You should be more worried. You should, like, for me, nerves are a really good thing. I know if I'm nervous, I care. So there's a fine line between nerves and anxiety, isn't there? And that real fine balance. But I'm like, I strutted around Twickenham the night before the Twickenham, like Billy Big Bollocks, thinking I'd made it. We all went out and had a little nighttime walk just because we couldn't sleep. Like, it was about 10 o'clock at night, just went for a quick walk around the block type thing. And I was strutting around thinking people knew me. I was like, have a word. But in my head, I'd made it that much of an event. Right. So yeah, there's nothing like a big game at all.
And I suppose because we played similar positions, we're quite lucky you get an early touch on an early involvement, don't you? But if you say you didn't, would you go and seek it? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I have to. I can't stand and wait. It's like starting on the bench. I know you have to, and all that impact stuff, but for me, starting on the bench is the worst thing for me. It's time to think in it. I'm a forward, I'm not a thinker. Just let me go and do.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy coming off the bench, to be honest. It's the not knowing when, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can never, like at my level, I'd never felt fully able to be ready. And then all of a sudden it's like stripped, get on. You're like,
wicked. Yeah, it was like
so
getting there straight away for me.
Yeah, and then did you play rugby league once you qualified?
No,
from uni.
Really weird turn of events. So I'd done my ankle in, and it was just over the 2013 Rugby League World Cup over here, and I kind of knew Chris Chapman from a very loose. So a woman that I worked at when I went back to my sixth form to work, a woman had got a job there. And he was her partner, and she kind of mentioned me, and he was looking for new forwards because the game for rugby league wasn't massive. So he'd come looking in rugby union. Had kind of spotted me before the 2013, but then I'd done my ankle, so I didn't know anything about it. And then I was still playing rugby league. Got back into my flow. 2014 was getting back to that rep level, and I'd just retrialed for Yorkshire. And then I got a phone call in February 15. Hi, this is Chris Chapman, England coach. I was like, all right, how you doing? And he was like, do you fancy playing rugby league? I was like, no, I'm all right, thanks, mate. I've just got back to playing rugby union. He was like, I've been watching you for a few years. I really fancy for the World Cup in 2017 in Sydney. And I was like, where do I sign up? And I wish it was less fickle, but it literally was as fickle as that. Right. He rang me in the Feb 15. I then signed for Stanningley, which was like the local team. And by June 15th, I made my England debut.
So did it feel as quick as that as well?
I'd piled on a load of weight, and he kind of said to me, I know what your skill's like, but not like you are at the minute. I need you to lose some weight and at least show me you're willing. And between February and June, I'd lost 3 stone.
You should have said, did you not see me walking around Twickers like Conor McGregor?
Yeah, honestly, that is exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. Yeah. You know who I am. So that was the turn of events to rugby league. Nothing fancy, nothing like elaborate. Literally, need some forwards to fancy playing. And it wasn't. I tell you something, it wasn't an easy ride into league, because then it was like I jumped into league, went into the England performance unit, and they were like, "Who the hell are you?" And I'd then signed for Stanningley at the time, and I had people at the side of the touch lines telling me that I'd done sexual favours to get in the England squad because I'd come from nowhere. It was brutal. Yeah, it was brutal. Yeah. It wasn't even a nice ride into league. And there were times I just thought, what's the point? But the whisper of actually playing for my country. And in 2011, I forgot about that. 2011, there was an England students team at uni.
Rugby League?
Yeah, Rugby League. And that's when I kind of tasted it. I think that's when Chris had first kind of properly seen me. And a guy called Mark Brennan took a chance on me and another girl from uni at rugby union, and he was like, bloody hell, I'll take you both out. And we played England students against some France select team, so it wasn't even a proper England, but it was we travelled for 30 hours on a coach, played 2 games against these French like select sides. It wasn't even the proper French side. Had a few bevs, and I was like, I'd had more professional at Twickenham than I'd had in this week playing for England students, so it didn't really count for me. So this England call up and him saying I could potentially play for England was the biggest whisper I'd had at kind of playing for England itself. So I'd battled through and I was getting punches in rucks. I was getting I'd been told I was a shirt stealer and stuff like that. I didn't know anybody in rugby league. I literally was so naive to it and so new to it that at the time it was really incestuous sport. There was only like 4 or 5 teams that really were any good in women's rugby league from across the M62.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, who the hell do you think? And everyone was talking about me because it's that small a world. And I was like, I don't know who you are. Like, you've taken my shirt, bang, in a ruck. And I was like, wow, cool. Cheers, guys.
Right.
I persevered through it, and some of them became, I won't say friends.
Yeah.
Once I kind of, you have to prove your worth, don't you? And then people start to have a bit more respect for
you. So what were your preconceptions of rugby league anyway? Or did you have any?
Yeah, I'm a diehard Rugby League Riders fan since '96. Stood in the South Stand, and I was the era. I confessed this to Gary Hetherington the other week. I was the era that used to climb over the Western Terrace to get into the ground.
Not when he started telling you what you're owing.
Yeah. I told him Chev Walker did it more than me, because I then got a junior. He lied about being a junior. Got a season ticket for a tenner. So I'd always watch the likes of Barry McDermott and Yestin Harris, and they were my, like heroes of the game. So I loved rugby league. I loved watching it. My brother always said like I'd never be able to play rugby league because it just wasn't a women's sport, and it wasn't massive. And there were women's teams, but none that I really knew of. And rugby union was the bigger, North Leeds area. Rugby union is a more affluent sport, and North Leeds is a bit more of that more affluent area. So I didn't really know of any teams in the area, and never really went looking because rugby union kind of fell into my lap.
Yeah. So when you've crossed courts, sorry to interrupt you, when you've crossed court, you've basically just come with a big arrow above your head, haven't you?
Yeah, massive. But for me, apart from the running the 10 meters there and back, which was absolutely, it was a better sport for me because I could run a ball in and not worry about getting the ball stolen or being tackled and losing it. So I could make my yards and make my meters, make a really big buster in tackle, look half decent. I'd take 3 or 4 girls to get me down, and I was notorious for it. Everyone used to be like, numbers on Danika, and that was also another massive arrow that I had, because I was an absolute, and with my dance, my balance was really good as well. So I was an absolute nightmare. And I would say I would win a tackle still standing probably 60% of the time, especially in that first year. So I was getting a quick play the ball all the time. So my conversion over to it was.
We underestimated you a bit there, didn't they?
Yeah, massively so.
Yeah.
I underestimated how easy it would be to convert as well.
Right. Do you think maybe if it had been the other way around,
not a chance,
it'd have been the challenge? No,
yeah,
but do you think it'd have been? Yeah.
I think I said that to anybody. I think it's much easier converting from union to league than league to union, because the union rules, if you watch it, you know, the kicks, the mauls, the rucks, the line outs, the dropouts, the 20-22s, like whatever. There's not say there's more rules. There is a few more rules. It's just not as easy, is it? Like worst case scenario in rugby league: catch, run, tackle, play the ball. That to me, worst case scenario. That's all I knew I needed to do.
Right. So when you're finding your feet, so when you've signed for Stanningley as well, is none of the big clubs got a women's team at this point?
No, it was.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but when I say big clubs, like
the Super League,
we're talking a bit when you went on to sign for Bradford, yeah, and stuff like that. Was there anyone like that before the Super League come about? Featherstone
were the only ones.
Was it?
Yeah, Featherstone. So there was Thunderbirds, which was Bradford, Stanningley,
right.
Thatto Heath.
It was the only team I was aware of, obviously being down here.
Yeah, those
Thatto had to travel to play and stuff.
Lee Miners were kind of up there. Wigan St Pat's. Right. They were all like, so it was like the top half of the league and the bottom half of the league, and then there was the likes of Selby and I'm trying to think, but that was it. Like that was saying, that was proper club, right. Like community level clubs. Yeah. So there was nothing massive. So playing for Stan, and I think maybe the year I signed for Stan was the year that there were still Thunderbirds for a year, and then the next year they turned to Bradford.
Right. And what would it be like playing each other 3 times with the league being short or even like 4 and a cup and stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of similar, and it was like you played everyone played everyone. So there was probably 8 or 9 teams. Yeah. No, maybe 10 teams. And then some teams you're absolutely doing over like ridiculous amounts. And then you go to playoffs halfway through the season, and top 6 would then play against each other for like essentially a grand final type thing. So then you would play everyone else again. So it was 3 times. And I think we made it in, we had to play, who did we have to play? Somebody like, I want to say Castleford Wakefield way. That we had to play for them to get into top 6, and they put me at half, and I was like, are you for real? You're putting me at half for the game that we need to win the league. Need to win this game to get into 6th place. But yeah, it wasn't anything. There was nobody massive at the time apart from Featherstone.
Right. So with your England debut coming quite early, because fundamentally you've been, poached might not be the word, because you might have eventually done it anyway.
Yeah.
But you've been sought after, haven't you? He's watched it a fair bit for a while.
Yeah.
When you're going, your sole purpose is to be ready for England, which it was, really, without being rude to Stanningley and that. Yeah. How long did it take you to get to grips with the shuttles, with the style of carry? Because I imagine your style of carry had to change when you've come over.
I think because I'd always been a league fan and Leeds Rhinos fan, and starting off in rugby league when I was at primary school, I think really lucky that I fell back into it. I didn't find it difficult. I didn't find it hard, like, fitness wise, but I've been told by Chris, lose weight. So I'd gone, I want to say psychotic. I mean, I'd gone psycho. I was training every morning, like every night. The weight was flying off me. And so I was becoming really fit. So it got to a point where the shuttles were, not easy, but
standard.
Standard. And I think like my conversion literally was, I want you to play, you're not going to play the size you are. You need to prove to me you're losing weight. And it was like challenge accepted, my switch, my flicked. And when I say I don't have like what's the right word I'm trying to look for, like an addictive personality, but there was something, and you were not going to stop me. I miss christenings, I miss weddings. I'd go out and have a beer, don't get me wrong, but I'd train twice as hard the next day. And I was still playing rugby union at the time, because we'd got into the playoffs for the national final, and I said to Chris, look, I'm not going to let this team down. Our national final's in April, and he's like, play until April. No, it wasn't actually, because I was still playing for Stan. That wasn't until 2016-17, so I was still playing both codes through and through. For the first 2 seasons, I was still playing both codes. So I didn't have.
But you were flying through the union year though, weren't you? If you were that fit,
so I didn't have
bet
an
you found
off-season.
it that easy.
Yeah, I didn't have an off season, and I was blessed by not really being injured. The odd like thumb, I'd had weak thumbs from playing union anyway. But just I'd strap up my thumbs and just for the first 2 seasons I was playing both codes through and through. So I didn't have an off season for nearly 3 years.
Yeah. So the one thing I found is, you can slip into bad habits when you come back to union, can't you?
Yeah.
So did your position change?
Yes, I went from being front row.
Back?
Yeah. I went from being front row to back row.
Right.
I'd lost
so you kept the mobility there, didn't you? Yeah. So that role. Yeah. So the weight you've lost enabled you really to get round the park a bit more, influence breakdowns in a different way.
Yeah.
In case you want to jackal, they call it now, but get over the ball and stuff on the floor. Yeah. So it's broadened your horizon playing union, really. So was there ever an opportunity for them to say, well, we'd like you to now make that move, or was it rugby league because you verbally agreed it and began playing? Was you always going to go back?
It wasn't like there was nothing contracted or set in stone. The only time that I'd ever had that conversation was World Cup year.
Right.
And that was the only time that really anything kind of came about that I had to kind of make a decision. Even when I moved to Bradford, there wasn't anything. There was no contract. There was nothing. Rugby union for me was done in the sense of rep rugby.
Yeah.
I trialled for Yorkshire again, and I'd been told that my tackle tech wasn't good enough and I just wasn't fit enough. And I was like, that's not the truth. Yeah. Somebody's annoyed that. And I remember sending my report to my England Rugby League coach, not because I wanted to play for Yorkshire at that point. I was like, for validation. I was like, what? And he was like, this is not about you. This is probably about your decision. And I was like, what? And I took it really hard, not getting into the Yorkshire squad. I was absolutely devastated. But he was like, you're going to play for England. But I was like, it's more of an ego. Like I'd never been told I wasn't good. I know that sounds really egotistical. But because I'm such a hard worker, and it just didn't seem, something wasn't right.
You don't go from skipper to not being good enough, do you?
I know, like, I don't think I've ever got over it now. Even now, I'm like,
I can see you in a bit fume.
Just like, what an arsey thing to do. But do you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I can't complain, really, can I now? So
I believe in that myself, to be honest. But is that, do you reckon that maybe the first time you've experienced politics, not witnessed it, but it's been in your case rather than someone else's?
Yeah, no, I just took it really hard. I took it really to heart.
Yeah. Right.
So I took it. Went back to my rugby union coach at the time. I took it to him, and he was like, "No, right, we can work on this." Then I was like, "What do you mean we can work on it? Do I need to work on it? Why have you not picked it up?" And I took less. I didn't really think of the politics. I knew it was politics in my heart of hearts, but to me, that was a personal hit on my performance and my skill. So I took it to heart. I took it personally that I needed to fix up on those things.
Yeah. And are you someone that you'd have been more than happy with just a nice direct chat? So if someone's seen that in your game, if they'd have said, listen, just to clean this up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was something like I'd missed tackles, and I was like, and it was one of those really muddy trials, where you come out absolutely kicked. And I was like, there's not a single piece of me that's dry. Missed a tackle, are you for real? Like, I was like, I don't mind. And I have had loads of feedback and criticism since, like you would do playing at a different level. And I love it. The only way you can improve, like it's now, even now the stuff I'm doing, I've texted one of my producers and said, what can I do? Like that for me is, but be honest, don't find an excuse of something. I'd rather just say,
hide behind shit.
Yeah, just be like, actually, we've got too many props and your focus is somewhere else now. So we want you all or nothing. And I would have been like, absolutely fair dues. Not fair, but the honesty for me is massive. Nobody's perfect and I can always improve, and I've been a 10 times better player. But don't feed that line. It's just not fair. It's just disrespectful, isn't it?
Yeah, and what doesn't help, you're probably smashing the people about
Yeah.
every other week that
It got
right, he's
selected,
picking.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, let's talk England then, and how is it when that place is confirmed? Because it's one thing saying I want you to play for England, it's another
Yeah.
thing you doing your bit and getting picked. How was that? And we talked before about box ticking. There's
Yeah.
no bigger boxes there.
I know exactly where I was. I know exactly where I was sat. I know the colour of the room, like how dark it was, what was on the like literally. So we'd been in camp a few times, and we'd been like, and Chris Chapman set a really, really high standard to go into camp. So as brutal as it sounds, my mum could have died that morning if I'd made the choice to go to England training. As soon as you step over the threshold, you're in England training. You can't bring your drama, you can't bring any baggage. You've chosen to go to training that day. So you turn up to training and you train for England, and you don't bring anything else with you. And I love that. For me, it was a real, in one respect, leaving everything behind and closing the door for a few hours. And on the next level, I love high expectations. Like, I love setting them myself for myself. And there's nobody with high, I've never worked with anybody that's got higher expectations than Chris Chapman, which for me was an absolute blessing. So I remember working so hard, and I remember him saying, work with this prop or work with this prop, or I remember even in training people being like, how the hell do we get Danika down? And I was like, yes, this is perfect. This is what I want to hear. And he was so like aloof. He'd never give you an inkling as to whether you're in or not. I'll give you a call on the Sunday. It'd be a Sunday or Monday. So he'd sit literally, I remember sitting with my phone on, I never have my phone on loud. I remember it being on loud. I remember the TV being turned down just in case for about 7 hours. For about 7 hours. Hi, Danica, it's Chris, you all right? And I'm like, how are you? Thinking, just say it. I think you've trained really hard, you've really proven yourself, you know, you've lost the weight, and you know, we've got a long way to go still, but your fitness, and we need to pick up on your skill a little bit more. You need to take heed, and he'd do 1-to-1s as he takes us aside. So he's already said all of this a week before in a 1-to-1. I'm like, Bear in mind, every Sunday we'd have to send him things we'd done good, something we'd need to improve on. So I knew. I was like, yeah. He's like, but you know, it's been a really difficult decision. I can only take 22 people. I'm like, okay, just tell me. And at this point, I'm thinking, I'm like, I'd rather think worst case scenario. So I'd never in my life will ever think the best possible scenario. I'll always think lower expectation.
Yeah.
And then he came around, he said, you're in the squad, and he was like, it's completely embargoed. You're not allowed to tell anybody. If you say anybody, it gets out that you've told anybody, you will be off the squad. Are you sure? And I'm like, okay. I took that literally. And I remember having my friends in the room, and they were like, and I'm like, checking my phone was off. I was like, I'm not allowed to tell anybody. You don't tell anybody. I just cried and cried. And then I jumped over the back of the sofa and was like, what do I do? What do I do? Oh my God, what do I do? So I went out for a run because I didn't want to be like, the girls went mad for me. And I remember like it being massive. And I think I rang maybe one person, my best friend Jenny. I rang Jenny. I was like, please don't tell him. I was thinking my phone's bugged. You know, when you go through like a real psycho kind of.
Yeah.
And then what can I do with my energy? Because I didn't know I couldn't sit down. And I was like, I'm going to play for England. And then it was a travel squad. It wasn't a playing squad. So I knew I was going to travel and have all the England kit. Oh, by the way, it's £300 and you're going to have to miss a week of school. Right, I'll deal with that bit afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went for a run, and then just thinking, came back, and then I let myself have a few minutes, but then I'm really pragmatic, and I was like, right. And I think it was maybe maybe it was a Saturday he rang, not the Sunday, and it wasn't getting released in the media until the Monday.
Right, okay.
And I was like, are you kidding me? That's a long time. And then look, I remember it getting released on Sky Sports, and I've still got the picture, the video of Sky Sports News.
Class.
And Chris Chapman has announced his 22 players to fly out to fly. I think did we go by coach? No, we flew out. We did fly out. But I remember being like, my name's on Sky Sports. I've made it. My name's on Sky Sports next to an England flag. And that for me, like, I'd lost the thought that I'm actually going to go out and do it. And then Stanningley went and did loads of fundraisers because me and Sarah Dunn both played for Stanningley, both got up, and I played with Sarah at Yorkshire and at West Park. So I'd got a real safety blanket in the fact that I was taking out a mate with me.
Yeah.
We both got caps at the same time. We both played for Stanningley. Stanningley went out and basically raised as much money. I think they raised 300 quid for us, so we split it like 50-50, obviously. And I remember buying a pair of Nike Rashis at the time, at about 110 quid. But they were light blue and dark blue, so they matched my kit.
Right.
So my England kit. And I love trainers. And at the time, I'd never spent any money like that. But I thought, because then I'd gone to speak to school and said, look, I'm going to go represent my country. I'm allowed the time off because, I get 13 weeks school holidays. Why are they going to give me another week?
Yeah.
And the head teacher at the time went, yeah, we'll give you it and we'll give you it paid. And I was like, wow, what? And things just fell into place for that tour. So I did pay the 300 quid, but I'd had money raised for it. I didn't lose any from school. And, I had a little bit spare to, a little bit of expenses that I had when I was out there, but nothing major. And yeah, number 15. I was number 15 for England.
Class.
Heritage number 56. The 56th player ever to play for England women.
That's not a lot, is it?
No. It's tattooed on my leg now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I would. But so talk to us about logistically getting out there, your experience out there, and did you feel like you belonged once you were called into action? Did you feel comfortable at that level?
No.
No.
I have a terrible imposter syndrome, and I think that's my safety network now at the minute. Like, even for everything I do, and I can every now and then I look back and go, bloody hell, you've done all right. Yeah. But I think at the time, and I remember we trained at Featherstone and it was the first time we'd all got our kit bags, and I'm like, I've got England kit, I've got an England rucksack and all this stuff. And I remember the first time training England kit was the first time I kind of, that was the real moment for me. Like, we trained at England camp, but we'd had t-shirts with England print on the back that Chris had got made himself, just so we had matching t-shirts at the time. But apart from that, shorts and socks and everything was just random. It was the first time we had a training kit, and then obviously the post-match kit with your jumper and your tracksuit bottoms and stuff. I remember training and thinking, and the intensity was good, but I remember I'm really fit, and I felt like I belonged in the sense that I was keeping up with everything. But as soon as you fly out to an England camp and you get picked, and you're like, part of me was like, I don't want to play. I don't want to let the team down.
Yeah.
And then we'd gone through all of the kind of stuff of when the national anthem's playing. And I remember being in a team meeting and it mentioned the national anthem playing. I just started. I wasn't crying. I'm never a crier, in the sense that I cry and so. I remember just tear falling from my eye and being like, shit, I forgot about that bit. Oh, I got to do another national anthem. What am I going to do? They're the times I've waited for.
Yeah.
And there was a moment then, I did feel like I belonged in one sense because I'd worked hard enough, but I didn't because I still, to my level, wasn't anywhere near as good as I wanted to be.
Right.
It's really hard to explain. And it's not like a Debbie Downer kind of put myself down thing. I was still quite new to rugby league, and as much as I'd picked it up and managed to get hold of it, I'd played for, not even 5 months, 4 months maybe.
Yeah.
Whether I knew the game or not, I played for 4 months. And I was going out to play for England for girls that have been playing for all their life.
On the mega stage, yeah.
Yeah, and the difference between me and the girls that played for years is they may have been more skillful, but nobody works harder at prop than I did in terms of fitness. And that is the one thing I'll take with me, is that I maybe never have been as skillful enough as the rest of the girls, but nobody worked harder than me at prop in terms of...
Yeah, you won't be out work.
That fitness, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to hold on to.
It's mad to think that men and women at your level still have that little bit, because we just think you just go out, it's easy, you just do it 5 days a week, which people don't take into account. You're judged on a match day, aren't you?
Yeah,
I always say that, it's mad. But we think you just go out, it's easy, you don't even like it that much, you're just on good money, and then you go off, and it just isn't the case.
Yeah, and for the women, it's completely, obviously we weren't ever professional. Like, and literally that first
Yeah,
thing, I paid for the privilege of playing for my country.
yeah.
I would do
It's
it all
hard,
over
isn't it?
again. I'd do it again. I'd do
Yeah,
it again, 100%.
yeah. And you know, I believe you. So when you're walking around on the other side of the world, is that swag still there, the Twickenham swag, or
No,
no?
I'd been put in my place. I played alongside Andrea Dobson, who was probably the most influential rugby league player of my time. Not only was I absolutely petrified of her on the field playing against her, she 1-to-1 when you know her is the nicest person in the world. On the field, she will play to the line, and she will get the first penalty to figure out how long she can lay on for, or what the referee's going to be like. And she played prop, she played 13, she played half, probably one of the most intelligent rugby people I have ever had the privilege. And she never took me under her wing, and she'd never be that kind of empathetic, kind of like, you all right, come on. She'd be like, Danika, just put your shoulder in. Danika, do this, Danika. And it was always very pragmatic and very clear cut. But I respected every ounce of every word she said because it was useful.
Yeah.
And I think and there was never a hierarchy of all these girls have played in the last World Cup and you deserve to be at the bottom. It wasn't that. It was respect. So if they're not strutting around like Billy Big Bollocks, you're not. And
Yeah.
I remember just being really grateful that I was in a squad with them and I was in a team, and not in like oh my God, they're amazing, but respect the fact that they'd come through the ranks and they'd come through the years of it, and they'd played for years, and it's all about how your team prepare as well. So if you're strutting around and thinking about yourself and putting your music on really loud or being really loud, what happens if the 3 or 4 of them at the back get really anxious because of that? And I learned how to deal with my game day kind of routine versus somebody else's, and how you can be supportive of each other while still doing your own. So it was a completely different environment to be around, and you learned to be really conscious of the other people and how they prepped and how they were, not just yourself. So it was a completely different environment. Like I say, it was a completely different environment to rugby union, and it was and if you were disrespectful, you got called out for it. And they'd sit in a room and Chris would go, what were you not happy with? And they'd be like, you. And it was that cutthroat.
Right. Well, it's where to be in it. If you want to go and beat the best, you've got to beat the best.
Yeah, and I don't think there's been in England. I respect the girls now, but I don't think Chris created an environment where you respected every moment of being in that environment. I don't really think it's as, like, I heard a couple of girls, coming back from the 2017 World Cup into it wasn't quite the same level, and I think that's Chris's autism and his expectations. And I swear to God, he is completely on the spectrum, but that created the most professional, respectful environment I've ever been in.
Well, he'll be that obsessive about all the little things.
Yeah,
the bigger picture comes together if you all play your part on it.
Exactly that. Yeah.
So coming home, does that relieve the sort of taunts you're getting on the touchline? Does that stop the digs in the tackle? Are you now respected as someone that can come because you want to be here?
No. Better, loads better. And I'd proven my worth a little bit, and I was getting the respect more. I was getting more respect at club level than I was at country. Playing with the country. I played a lot with the girls that there were like, actually, she's all right, she's decent. At least she's hardworking. Like, we'd have fitness groups at England, and there'd be 5 groups, and generally the props would be in the bottom 4 and 5. I was always in 2. I never hit 1. When I crept into 3, I was annoyed. So I was really happy being in 2. And even at some points in England, we did this testing, and the last 2 people there was a half and a fullback and me. And I was like, that to me, and I think I don't respect from the girls, and that does trickle back through the clubs, doesn't it? The sense that actually she's all right and she works damn hard to be in there. So I did get some. There's always going to be a few that don't get the opportunity to speak to the England girls, or don't really get the opportunity to, and nobody always wants to see the success in somebody, do they? And the sooner I realised that, the easier it got anyway. Somebody's always going to be fighting my corner to see me fail. And even still now, people don't want to see me be successful in front of the camera. So
on the telly, I imagine that's worse than actually playing, if I'm honest. Especially with social media now as well.
And that's it. Social media is much bigger now, but it did ease it, and then you learn to respect the people that respect you as well. So people don't become irrelevant. That's a horrible thing to say, but definitely fight your battles, and that's a thing that I learned: fight your battles.
Yeah, I was going to say probably the attention you got altered slightly, didn't it?
Yeah.
So a tackle was a tackle rather than an assault anymore and stuff like that. Yeah. So you touched on it before, but the ACL injury, how did that happen, and how bad did that hit you?
So I'd come, it was originally in 2017 to the World Cup year. We'd gone out for a test game, England. We'd gone out for a week in France. And it was my first starting shirt for England. And we played France the first game, and I'd got a fair few minutes. And there was a few little bits that Chris and Tom Brindle wanted to fix up with me. And I was like, absolutely. And we'd have individual reviews, we've had video reviews. And then the second game we played, I started again, played probably 25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. It was about 35 degrees at the time. We played, and I'd left it quite late, but it was June in the summer. And then the second half I'd gone on, I'd played 40 minutes the second half. And I had and I never used to come off the pitch going, oh, I played well. But I came off and I was like, wow. Chris was like, oh, well done. I said, Chris, you left me on for 40 minutes. But no, I didn't. I was like, Chris, you didn't take me off in the second half. And he was like, managed it then. He said, if I thought you needed to be taken off, I would have taken you off. So well done. And I was like, there's a backhanded compliment, but
yeah.
And then I remember he works for, I think it's UK Coaching or UK Sport or something. And then the night of the second game, he had to leave at 3 a.m. to go and do some table tennis, international stuff. And I got a text from him saying, well done. You continue to play like that this season. You've got a starting shirt in the World Cup. So this was a June, and we were flying out to the World Cup in the November. So I was like, oh my God, this is it. That's World Cup is the dream, and that was the dream.
Yeah.
Moved to Bradford. I'd not had a good time moving to Bradford. I'd been called a Judas, and I'd been like, you're only doing it for yourself. Was captain of Stanningley. I had to leave Stanningley, and I was like, the girls at Stan weren't happy. And I get it. I completely understand. But at that time, I'd learned to become. I was never selfish enough to probably push it fully elite beforehand. So maybe the rugby union stuff, if I'd been more selfish, I would have done that. But I learned to be selfish. But I don't like being calling that. Like it's about for you. So I moved from Stan to Bradford because they were playing I was playing alongside a lot of the England girls. I was playing a better level. I wasn't playing 80 minutes at prop. Chris wanted me to be a 20, 25-minute prop. And what's the point in playing at 70% for 80 minutes when I can play 100% for 20, take a breather and come back on? So I had to learn about the role of a prop and really what my role was. And as much as I'd wanted to play 80 minutes, that's not what a prop does. And that's not what you do in a World Cup. So I'd learned that, and I'd gone across, and I'd made a lot of sacrifices. They're not sacrifices. I made lots of choices to go across. And then we'd come back from this test tour, and I was like, brilliant, work. Chris used to come around and do satellite sessions, and he came around, and it was about 10 days after we came back from this tour, and he came to Bradford and he was doing a session. We did tackle tech, and everyone was like, right, Danika's the one. Like, how do we get her down? How do we make it more of an efficient tackle? The last tackle of the last second of the training session, something went in my knee, and I went down, and I was like, something's gone. And this was the June of 17. And Chris was there, and he was like, is it swollen? A little bit. Is it bruised? No. Is it hot? No. And they were the three key signs for an ACL: bruising, swelling, and heat. I had one. And I was like, Chris, I'm fine. He was like, get up and walk on it. And I was like, yeah, fine. And I was like, just walk. And to get off the training field with a slope like this. And I was like, I can't get down this slope. And I turned to my friend and I was like, get me down the slope. And she went, what? I said, get me down the slope. She went, what do you mean? I said, I can't get down the slope. And Chris is watching me. Just stand in front of me and get me down the slope. And I went to get in the car and I couldn't use my foot. So I phoned my boyfriend at the time. I was like, you have to go and get a taxi and come and drive my car home. And then Chris just phoned me. I was like, go to hospital now. I was like, absolutely not a problem. Got to my friend's house. Harry had dropped me off, and I got to my friend's house and she took me to hospital. And then they got to hospital. They were like, oh, I think it's your ACL. Got put in a leg brace, went home, cried for probably 10 hours because I knew what an ACL was at the time. And I was really lucky. And I'd got to, that was the Wednesday night. The following Tuesday, I was in the knee clinic. And I'm not religious, but by the grace of God, I don't know who was looking out for me. I don't know what it was, but the actual surgeon was my appointment was with the actual surgeon, Dr. Venkatesh. Don't know why I remember. I just remember it vividly.
Yeah.
Gone in my England kit. And I'd gone in and I was like, I need to know what's wrong with my knee. I've got a World Cup in November. And he was like, you haven't if it's an ACL. I was like, well, I need to find out. And he was like, right, we'll just book you in for an arthroscopy and we'll book your MRI in next time, but we'll go. And 2 weeks later, I went in for an arthroscopy in the July. And he got my ACL results of my MRI on the day of my operation. And he was like, it's not looking good. I was like, promise me you'll do whatever you can. Like, and this is all NHS, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
To this day, I do not believe the story. I live in a parallel universe from this story, because I remember it was like, I need to reconstruct it. I was like, go in there, because I couldn't have the reconstruction that day. Tell me what you can do. Get me to a World Cup. He was like, okay, deal. You come out with a leg brace on, you're not going. You come out without a leg brace, you've got 6 weeks to prove yourself. And I was like, I remember shaking his hand and being like, I will work harder than you've ever worked. And I came around to this operation, felt my leg, didn't have a brace on, sat bolt upright. The nurse was like, whoa, calm down. I was like, get me something to eat, get me something to drink. I need to get out of here. I knew that's what I had to do to get out of the hospital from the operation. And they're like, calm down. I was like, get me some food, get me a drink. And then you have to like do the whole thing. You have to eat, drink, and wee. So I was smashing, and they were like, stop, you're going to be sick. And honestly, to God, to this day, I was possessed. I was taken over by something. And I got out of that hospital within 2 hours. And 5 days later, I was on a bike cycling. No resistance.
Just for people that don't know, you basically only had your knee cleaned out. You've had nothing big there, have you?
He'd sewn my
just
ACL.
to clean out.
He'd sewn my ACL.
Oh, did he?
It was a grade
right.
3 tear, and anybody else would have reconstructed it, but he sewed my ACL up for me. And went back 6 weeks later, and he was like, you all right? And I was like, yeah, how do you feel? And he was like, yep, that's fine, you can go do it. And it was 14 weeks from operation to flight that I made it. And my first...
Did you swell on the flight at home?
Oh, yeah, I had loads of like compression stuff. I was really well looked after.
Yeah.
And we flew in 24 hours, so we had lots of routines in the sense that we had to get up and walk around and do exercise anyway. But I'd done a bit of contact against Andy and Emma in training, who are the 2 biggest props.
Right.
But my first game of rugby league after tearing it and being fixed was Papua New Guinea in a World Cup. Played the World Cup, shouldn't have gone out, wasn't fit enough in the sense that I wasn't confident. Came back, signed for Leeds, and then on the 26th of May 2018, playing at Leeds at Headingley for the first time, went into attack. I was tackling, and then a gunshot went off. Sat on the floor, and I was like, it's gone.
You know.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And then Ant and Dave Gibbons, who were my coach at the time, came to lift me off, and I said, boys, and they brought the stretcher on. I said, look at the boys. And I said, boys, let me walk off this field in case I don't ever walk on one again. I'm at Headingley for the first time in my life, playing in my dream. Like, Headingley will always be my dream stadium. It was the first day the women ever played it. It was this 27th of May, 2018, 65th minute on the 40-metre line. I said, walk me off this pitch, just in case I never walk back on it again. And then found out that I needed full reconstruction, and you might as well have told me my life was over. I was ready to jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
And that's as brutal as an injury is. Like, I'd come off the World Cup, I was playing in the best rugby, I'd got myself fit, I'd rehabbed really hard, and it'd gone. And I thought, you know, I was just playing in a Leeds Rhinos jersey in the first season. I was vice captain. And normally takes, they say, average 12 months to get back from your operation. I had my operation, so I did it on the 27th of May. My operation was the 11th of September, which was my birthday. I'd had to pay because the NHS were taking months. I paid for my operation myself because there was no medical support for women. And I came back in 364 days. I came back on the 26th of May, 2019.
No, it is. It's just mad how key it is for you to just know exactly.
That's
it was important to you.
That's how psychotic I got. And that comes from the June 2017 before the World Cup. I gave up everything. I gave up, stopped seeing people. I was training and rehabbing. I was paying money for 2 or 3 physios at a time because I wanted more than one opinion.
Yeah.
And I wasn't telling anybody because I wasn't allowed to, because I was only meant to see the England physio and my physio Mark at West Park, who had gone back to West Park then because I knew he was based there every Tuesday and Thursday. And he gave me 2 bouts of physio for free every week.
You were just leaving no stone unturned, basically, was you? You weren't going to
No,
leave it to chance. Yeah.
I would never want to go back to being that person I was for that time, because it wasn't a sustainable lifestyle. But to get into a World Cup, then to make a comeback,
Yeah.
I would do it again for that. But the person I was at the time, I wasn't nasty or horrible, but I was just tunnel vision to the nth degree.
Yeah, single-minded. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So how was it being a Leeds girl signing for Bradford? And then how good was it being able to sign for Leeds?
There was never a Leeds team apart from Stanningley. Stanningley was the closest because Leeds Rhinos Academy used to train there, and you'd see Jamie Jones Buchanan with his Huns and Jamie Peacock there, and Ash Golding and Jordan Lilly were coaches there. So that was as close to Leeds I'd get. But I knew the level was at Bradford. So playing for Bradford wasn't a bad thing. It just was a means to an end. And then as soon as I heard, obviously I played at Bradford with Lois Forsell, and as soon as I heard there was a Bradford team starting, I was like, right. But when the trials for Leeds happened, I wasn't allowed to train because I was coming back from this operation because the trials were pre-World Cup. So I went down, spoke to Lois, spoke to Chev Walker, and I remember being at the side of Chev Walker, and Chev Walker's like, don't worry about it, you're in. I was like, you can't say that, you can't. He said, what? He said to me, what's better, playing in a World Cup or playing in a Leeds Rhinos jersey? And I was like, Leeds. And he was like, you're wrong. And I was like, Chev, I need to play for Leeds. I have to play for Leeds.
Yeah.
And he'd been told by Chris, do not let her trial at under any circumstance. So the Leeds guys at the time and Leon Crick, they were really good. They were like, don't worry about it. I was running out codes. I was like, do you need any help? Do you need some water? Do you need a ball? Like, I was making myself known.
Yeah.
And then we obviously got the message that, yeah, you are going to do. And coming back from the World Cup, the World Cup's a really hard environment to be in. And all of the stick that I'd got originally when I'd signed for League, I was getting via social media and messages when I was out in the World Cup. So I was ready to quit playing rugby on the way back. And the saving grace was being sat next to Lois Forsell for the first leg from Sydney to Dubai is 14 hours. And just remember sitting next to her and she was like, it's going to be totally different because nobody that you've ever played with is going to be in this team, give or take 4 people that have gone from Bradford. And nobody you've ever been coached by is going to be coaching this team. This is a fresh start. She went, I don't even think we'll be very, very good initially. Don't think she'll be very good, she said, but we're going to have a tough ask. Bearing in mind, we just won the treble with Bradford Bulls.
Yeah.
And there was me, her and Shah Booth that had been in the World Cup that were going to play. And then Amy Staveley was coming. And then Ree Marshall was coming over from, I think she was Featherstone at the time. So she was like, I don't know how good we'll be. You might as well just come. It's a fresh start. And none of the coaches know you. None of the coaches have particularly worked in the women's game. You might as well try it. And I was like, right, all right, I will do. And then Cuspo walked in, Adam Cuthbertson walked in as the head coach. Leon Crick was there as team manager. Assistant coach Ant and Dave Gibbons, who were Hunslet and Leeds stalwarts, aren't they? And then they were like, Danika would like to be vice captain. I was like, okay, okay, I'll be vice captain. And to this day, I can't tell you what was better, walking out in a World Cup or walking out in a Leeds jersey. I can't quantify the two, but Leeds probably edges it. I remember that first game was the big rivalry reignited, Leeds Rhinos versus Bradford Bulls, the open of the Women's Super League, the whole new Super League reinvented at Odsall Stadium after the men had played. There was 3,000 people there shouting Judas at me and Lois. We didn't think we'd go that well because we'd lost the pre-season warm-up against Castleford 24-4 or something. And we went out and won the game, and I just remember crying. I remember me and Lois just walked around the pitch crying. And probably still, honestly, it makes my cheeks hurt, like one of the greatest days of my life.
Did you realise what you had done then? No.
Not
because
at all.
The game has literally just done that, hasn't it, since?
I remember being at the end of the game, and I remember Sky Sports interviewing me, BBC interviewing me, and I was like, somebody take a picture. I've got a Sky Sports News mic in front of me, like, and BBC, I think it was Sky Sports had done a feature, so they'd come on the coach with us. I'd been interviewed beforehand, and I was like, again, a bit like, look at me. Like, but because even going out to the World Cup, we didn't even have that coverage. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's bizarre, isn't it?
And because it was this big rivalry ignited, I remember like loads of the RFL were there, and I think we're going to get spanked, like embarrassingly so here. And we did it, we won. And And that was a moment when the press started being, I was a bit like, this is different. And then people started ringing saying, oh, can you do this interview? And I was like, Leanne at Leeds Rhinos, I was like, Leanne, what do I do? And she was like, wow. And that's when Leeds had to decided they had to kind of take on a bit of media stuff. And they were like, anybody you get, send them our number and we'll deal with it all for you. And it kind of, I was like, I've just been out in a World Cup in Australia and we'd come third and we'd lost in the semi-finals to New Zealand, but I didn't get half the coverage. I think the Guardian, and I got an interview with the Guardian, and then the Telegraph and Argus, which is a Bradford paper, but I was Bradford playing and I was teaching in Bradford at the time. To this, all of a sudden I've been asked by left, right and centre to go do interviews and be on BBC Radio. And I was like, what the? So yeah, and then as we got towards, and obviously I'd done my ACL halfway through that season, and I was getting picked to do loads of stuff for like Leeds and Gary Hetherington, and Leeds were fantastic at getting us involved in doing stuff. So I didn't know if I was doing more stuff because it was a Leeds or more stuff because it was the media and the profile. And then when I took a step back, I was like, this is pretty big. This is pretty big. So yeah.
Like Ignite what you're doing now by any chance? Did it give you a little taste?
Yeah, I think more 2019 that came in. So the stuff that I'm doing now came from pure tokenism. It was International Women's Day, and James Dayton got in contact and he was like, we come and do BBC Radio Leeds, it's Hull FC versus Leeds Rhinos, and be a summariser. And I was like, do what? Pardon? And then Sky Sports had Jodie on, but I was a bit like, I'm not bothered by that stuff. I'm not bothered about like women and equality. You know, at the time I was like, yeah, if you want me to. He's like, yeah, come on over and like, we'll, you know. And James Dayton was absolutely fantastic. He was like, every time I take a break, just tell me what's happened. I was like, all right, okay. Well, they didn't really number off properly then, and it then found the gap and he passed it and he got through, and he was like, yeah, that's it, just do more of that. And I was like, oh. And Hull FC, the gantry is like the highest place in the world, and that's how that started. So it was at the end of 18, James Dayton got me in and we did like a women's takeover hour, but he'd written the script for me, but I essentially ran my own radio show. I was interviewing the girls, but I was interviewing girls that I knew. So even then it didn't feel that bad, but it was more so 2019 when James got me on doing that it kind of really took a bit of a snowball effect. Yeah.
Well, when you said Bradford won the treble, you weren't able to be involved, was you? But when you come in Leeds, you managed to get your hand on the trophies, didn't you? And
yeah, a long time coming. We won the Challenge Cup, and it's that cliche story. If you know when Kev Sinfield grabbed Jamie Jones Buchanan and took him up because Jonesy was injured and done his quad, and Kev took him up to the gantry to lift the trophy. Courtney Winfield had done that with me in the Challenge Cup. She was like, this is your medal. And on the presentation, picking up the trophies and the medals, she handed me her medal and she said, no, mate, this is yours. And I've got a picture of me just being like, whoa. And she'd done that. So I'd watched them, and I remember that day being really difficult.
Yeah.
Because we got to a Challenge Cup, and then obviously getting to the grand final was really tough. And then Lois had just snapped her ACL. So me and Lois were both sat out for the grand final. Not saying if either was a player we would have won that, but the grand final was the one that lost us getting the treble. And we easily could have won that. Not because of us, but we should have been one of them games. I remember being like, Lois, we're not missing another final. We're not doing it. And I got back in time to make the final at the Challenge Cup final at Bolton that they'd just put on as a triple header. So it was our final and the men's semis.
Yeah.
And I remember the BBC were covering it. We were on the BBC Red Button at the time. I remember coming back, I'd had an absolute. There were parts of that game I played really well. There's a couple of mistakes I made that led to Castleford's first try at the time, but I remember thinking. And then again at the end, I was pulled for interviews, and I remember Leanne was having to walk around with me and take me to various interviews and also pull me away from them. I remember thinking, like, I've got a bodyguard in terms of media here, and that was then. And then we went on BBC and Calendar and Look North, and people wanted us on the regional TV stuff. And that's when I met Tanya Arnold, who was like, actually, you can speak. I want you to do a woman in sport event with me. And that's how it kind of all came about. Like, I can hold a line or two together. So I think that's kind of, I think being a teacher and being quite articulate in that way has probably been why I've been kind of all right at it.
Yeah, your delivery is like spot on and clear, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I listened to my
So
first podcast for 40/20 and I think, oh, I'd love to redo that again. But it's also a great starting point.
no, well, listen, you learn on the job, don't you?
Yeah.
It just gets easier. Like what I'd say, like originally I started this for my mates at where I grew up playing, and it was just to keep the club in mind over lockdown, basically. So
Yeah,
people
yeah,
don't forget you. And I was going, it's just mates chatting. And before you know it is. It's
yeah.
like I've nearly had you like 2 hours now and it don't feel it because I'm only just
Don't
getting
at
to know
all.
you. But it like that's all it is. It's just a chat that some people might listen to.
Yeah.
But so when the media comes round, this is the decision to call it a day already been made.
No. So the 2020 happened and I'd done a couple of the Super League shows with Tanya Arnold, but in the empty stadiums.
Right.
And the first one I'd done with John Keir. So I was carried by him a little bit. You know, if you stuttered or you weren't sure, he'd just jump in. And equally, if he said something and I felt like I can add to it, I added to it. And it was a real, we watched 3 games of rugby at Headingley with nobody else around. And I was like, I didn't think about being on TV at the time. I thought about how lucky I was that I was at a live sporting venue in 2020. It was like September the 5th or something. God
Good way
knows
of
when.
looking at it, that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember like, what do I wear? And I remember being freezing because I'd not dressed for the occasion. And obviously, on air you see what you wear. Then off air, everyone's wrapped up. But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it was like hearing the light, and that's when James Graham was back playing. And all you could hear was James Graham screaming for Saints about, I'm gonna take the head off him. And I was like, and obviously being a diehard rugby fan as well, I was just like, how lucky am I to be in this position? And then 2021, we'd got back, and I'd probably enjoyed lockdown. I got into craft ales, I'd got into wine, I'd got into cooking. So I was training, but I had all the time in my world. Everyone did, didn't they? I was sunbathing and drinking in lockdown. I was very fortunate, and I know not many people were, but I was very fortunate to have a good lockdown. I was with my housemate Becky, and we still to this day say that when days are hard, I'm like, take me back to lockdown, because that's how good a lockdown we had. I was the brownest I'd ever been as well. So I probably wasn't as fit as I could be when I got back into 2021. And then all the COVID protocols, and then I was back in teaching at school. So I was like doubly hit with COVID protocols, and touch wood, never got it. But things were very different in terms of my pressures from work and how work had changed. I work in alternative provision. So the social side of it, the social work side of it, and the kids I had to deal with, and the pressures that came from school. And I had to be in like holds and restraints, like we have to restrain the kids sometimes, which meant I was closer to people, and my pressures at school had changed a lot, and obviously rugby wasn't paying anything, so I'd had to make a decision. And sometimes I was late for training, or I'd had a really tough day in the office, and beforehand I could manage stuff really well, but coming back and seeing the kids and how much it affected them, I felt really guilty about how difficult everyone else had COVID and had lockdown. And so I'd say to Lois, like, I'm having a really tough day, like, and I'd turn to training, I wasn't training that well because my head wasn't in it. And that's when I realised that I needed to pick between my career and my hobby, because essentially that's what rugby was, because I wasn't being paid, it was a hobby. And then I wasn't getting selected for games, and I was like 18th man, and I was like, whoa, this has never happened before. So I had a really honest conversation with Lois and the twins and Dave, and I just said, look, you need to tell me what I need to do to keep being picked, because I want to end playing on my terms, not because I'm not good enough anymore. And they never really gave me a straight answer. And I kind of like, being on the bench or being the 18th man a couple of times was hard hitting. And I was lucky enough to get picked a couple of times to start, but that was because of injuries. Like, I'm under no illusion that I didn't get picked because, that I was getting better. It's because I was getting old. Like at the time, I'm 38 now. So, 37, 36, 37. And there was an 18, 19-year-old prop coming and absolutely doing what I was doing, years before. So I was at a place where I was happy to be like, they are coming through. And I remember we got to the grand final. It was played at Headingley. It was we played against St Helens. There was 4,500 people in the crowd. It was a beautiful day. It was October, and we'd lost dreadfully. And I'd gone on for like 15 minutes of the first half, and then she pulled me off again. And I knew I was going to do a better job than the prop that was on the field. But for some reason, she put me back on. And then for 5 minutes, we were 24-0 down. And for the last 5 minutes, she put me on. And I was a bit like, nah, this is not.
Like a sympathy sort of
Yeah. And I'd already been thinking, like, I'd been trying, but I'd never had the balls to say to anybody, this is my last year. Nor did I want the pressure of it being my last game. I didn't want anybody to think of it like that. And I knew, when I knew, I'd know.
Yeah.
I remember Phil Kaplan from 4020 came to interview me after the game and he was like, how are you feeling? I was like, that's it, I'm done. That's it, me, done. And then I just burst into tears and I was like, I'm done. I'm done, that's me done.
Yeah.
And he turned off the camera, he turned off his dictaphone thing, whatever it was, because he's a good friend of mine as well. And he just went, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, you better go tell Leanne then, because don't tell anybody else until you've told Lisa. I was like, oh shit, yeah. I was like, Leanne, I'm done, that's it. And then I had a real big cry in the tunnel. And she was like, no, I'm not going to interview you now. We're not doing it now. Don't tell anybody it now. Please don't say it. Give yourself a couple of days. The emotion's high. You've lost. And then we all went out for beers afterwards. And Lois just kind of went to me, yeah, that's why I put in the last 5 minutes. I thought he might want that to be it. And I was like, you can imagine, I thought.
Yeah.
And then they rang me about 4 days later and said, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's me done. And then the Friday went out. And oh my God, the publicity and the coverage. I was like, even if I wanted to retract my statement, 250 calls I got from the press that day. And I remember just turning my phone off because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the fact that it was real. I couldn't accept it that I'd done it. I couldn't accept that there was no turning back because of my ego. There's no way I could be like, sorry guys, lol, jokes, I'm coming back.
Jokes, yeah.
I knew that I couldn't, and I was getting calls from like Warrington and other clubs to be like, come and play for us. And I was like, I cannot physically, even if I wanted to come out of retirement. And I think that was the best thing, because I would have done. I would have either come out of retirement or I would have gone and played for a different club. And I cannot, that Friday being the worst day of my life, because it was so real. Like, and as soon as that press release had gone out, it was taken out of my hands. And I was doing an event at Leeds the Thursday night, and that's when I'd done my official press release for Leeds. And Jamie Jones was host. He was like, "Oh, you've retired," and I was like, "Mm, mm, mm, mm." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "I can't speak about it. I can't speep about it." He was like, "What?" And I was like, "Not only is it not gone out, which is fine, but I'm not ready to have this conversation, Jonesy." And he was like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Move on." And I can hold my own. And I've cried before at questions because I'm a passionate person. But I was like, no, absolutely do not speak about it. And the worst day of my life, other than my ACL.
Yeah, well, you've grew up with the game as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
So it's everything, isn't it? It's the memories, it's them ambitions of that 6 and 7 year old.
Yeah,
It's the reflecting on everything.
And I also think it's like seeing the game progress, like going from playing Stanningley and Bradford when we had to draw straws for who was going to wash the kit and walking the pitch and picking up needles, God forbid, and like dog muck and stuff, and putting cones in divots so we didn't break an ankle.
Yeah.
I remember shouting at the young girls, the academy girls that come through, like they'd walk into a changing room and everything was set up for them. Like we'd got the training venue, the medical, the strength and conditioning staff at Leeds, like, and these girls for a couple of years, and they'd take the kit off after a game and just throw it in the middle. I'd be like, undo your socks, pull your shirt the right way, like have pride and respect in the fact that how far this
setting standards.
Do not realize how privileged you are to have this. And I hope that they know that it was a good thing that I did that. But I remember just thinking, like, I am not the stalwart like the Andrea Dobsons and the Julia Lees and the people that have come before me years and years before me. And I hold, like, there's a massive homage to them and how they've brought the game on. But for me, at least for the girls like the Caitlin Beavers was a 16-year-old egotistical little girl, and like she to this day says, you put me in my place but in the best possible way, because I was like, Caitlin, take your socks and put them the right way around, have a bit of respect for whoever's going to watch this kit. And now she's the most wonderful, like, and she's now passing that back down to people that come through, and she's making sure that, and she's a really good friend of mine and I absolutely adore her. But she like a 16-year-old, she stepped up from the academy and started playing with that very first game, who's not going to get a bit of an ego about it. And was a phenomenally outstanding talent. So the fact now that she's kind of still doing that, and he's vice captain at Leeds, and he's like, maybe I helped her journey a little bit, you know. So
undoubtedly, yeah, undoubtedly. So when it comes to the mic, then do you see the game a bit differently now, and is it something you really enjoy doing?
yeah, you have to really watch the game now, don't I? Yeah, what a whirlwind! Like, I can't even put into words like the last 18 months, and I'm having a better time than ever now. Now that I'm not used to it, because I'll never be used to it, but
Yeah.
now that I've kind of beginning to believe, I don't believe, but I'm beginning to believe I belong there. Yeah, I'd done bits and pieces for like Super League show, and I'd done the international with Sky when I was still playing, but not picked for England,
Yeah.
and stuff. So I'd done the bits and pieces of it, but it was all really ad hoc, kind of like a bit rushed and still a bit COVID-y. So nothing was like, you weren't had trailers, or you didn't have makeup really. You had a bit of it on the gantry, but it was still COVID protocols. So my view of being behind the screen was very like fragmented and very go in, do a job, leave again. And then 2021, January 21, I got the call from Joe Gardner from Channel 4 and IMG to say, oh, do you want to be on it? I was like, yeah, of course I do. Thinking it'd be a one-off, bit like the Sky and the BBC is very ad hoc and stuff. In the meantime, I've done some co-coms for BBC, and Ali McIntyre, who's the executive editor, had said, basically, we've seen how good you are for the World Cup in a couple of years' time, because we're going to need people in the women's game, because we're going to show the women's game. And I was like, again, another aim to be in England, but not in a World Cup in a playing capacity. But you've set me another challenge, was it?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I'd done bits and pieces for BBC and worked with Matt Newsom and stuff, and Dave Woods. But again, like I say, so Channel 4 was the real first time that all those protocols had gone. Rocked up to a Channel 4 set, massive Winnebago trailer, hair and makeup, Adam Hills, Helen Skelton, Sam Tompkins, Kyle Ames. And I remember sitting there going, oh my God. Luckily, I'd known Helen through Richie playing at Leeds, and I met Helen and the kids. So she wasn't as big I wasn't as starstruck, but I'd been to Adam Hill's like not concerts, but his gigs, you know what I mean, for like years.
Yeah.
I'd watched the last leg from the days of the Paralympics when it first was born, and Mike Heine's like, hey, came in, big hug and kiss, and I was like, oh my God. And I remember just thinking, I used to hate Sam Tompkins. I was the typical person that believed that Sam Tompkins is that villain that you see on the TV, and he's probably sworn me to secrecy, like, no. He's like, don't ever tell anybody that I'm actually really nice.
Right. Well, to be honest, I told a few people that I had him on before I'd done it over Zoom, and I told a few, and I won't name names, and Sam won't be asked because he doesn't seem that bothered. But I got told he's awkward, he's difficult, and I was like, he's like, no offense, he's a rugby player we all look up to. He changed the game, didn't he, for the time? I had him on, and he was brilliant. Yeah, he was brilliant. Like, it cocked up a few times, and he was like, he messaging me, don't worry, mate, like, I'm still here, get it sorted, and I'll do it. Yeah. And when it like 3 or 4 times, he was great. I can't speak highly enough of him, but I did get what you got basically about he's difficult, he's hard work,
Yeah, I remember being on the Super League show with Tanya Arnold, and she went to interview him, and I was like, oh, I'm staying here. Like, I was literally that venomous about him.
Really?
Yeah, and then it got to a point at the end of, like, obviously the last year, 2022, when we were doing the World Cup as well. So by the time we'd done our Sky Sports and BBC and then Channel 4, and it got to the World Cup, and he was then in the press release for the World Cup, it got to a point, he was like, I have seen you this month more times than I've seen my wife. And I was like, we're officially TV, husband and wife. And that was the joke. I remember being really nervous, and Leon Price was there as well. I did Channel 4, got loads of feedback. I'd swapped numbers with Adam Hills. I was like, okay, if you want it.
Friends.
He was saying, what a great
friends.
Literally. But again, one of the most humble, and Adam was more nervous than we were because he felt like an imposter because he'd not played the game. And then it was Channel 4 that was kind of like, I love any opportunity. Like, I will take, even like yesterday I was on The Sportsman with Sharon Shortall, absolutely loved it, loved the opportunity to do that. But Channel 4 was the first time I'd felt like a family. But because of the COVID protocols had all gone, it was the first time we'd gone back into TV with having all of that and being able to sit and mingle before a game. Channel 4 has become my new team, my new family. And if you're to ask me what's my favourite, it is Channel 4 because I had the chance to then build. And I thought I was going to do a one-off. Little did I know I'd be on every game and then walking pitch side at Old Trafford.
Class that.
Brand new fan.
As a United fan
you
as
know
well.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think back to that council kid that had nothing.
Yeah.
And I literally stood there with Adam Hills, and we were doing this like weird roundup show. So we weren't doing the normal kind of Channel 4 thing. And we were stood at the Leeds Rhinos supporters end as Leeds ran out to then, and Leeds Rhinos were at this grand final. I'm like, this is not all right. And you want to pay me to be there? That's not all right. That's not all right.
Yeah.
And Leeds Rhinos, and the crowd went wild because Leeds had come out to warm up at that end. I was stood pitch side with a microphone with Adam Hills. We were both just stood there in awe of where we were. Do not stand on the pitch. We were both like stepping on the pitch because good. And I just went, shit. And I turned around and I just streamed and I cried. And again, not sobbed, cried, just I couldn't stop myself. And Adam went, you all right? And I was like, And he went, what? And I was like, this shouldn't have happened to me. Like, this shouldn't have happened to me. And not that I didn't believe it shouldn't have happened, but I was like, how? How am I in this position right now? Pitch side at Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams, watching Leeds Rhinos run out, being shouted at by a Leeds Rhinos fan because by this point they knew who I was, so I was getting my name shouted out from the crowd, being paid to be like, and Adam Hills just went, the day you lose that feeling is the day you stop doing TV. And I was like, absolutely fine, no problem. And what an occasion. And then I went on, had a couple of weeks off, and then went off on a whirlwind to do the World Cup afterwards, and was back at Old Trafford for the World Cup final. Twice in one season, I was strutting pitch side at Old Trafford. What the hell? And to this day now, I'm still like, are you for real? Are you for real? And then off the back of that, like getting nominated for a Pundit of the Year. Went to a red carpet event where Ian Wright knew who I was. My brother's the biggest Arsenal fan in the world.
Yeah.
And he was like, hi, Danika, well done this year, you've done really well. I was like, firstly, why do you know my name? Why do you know how well I've done? And then he was like, did you want this trophy? Haha. And I was like, good crack. That was 2022. And then I went on to do a World Cup. No, like, it's still not even real.
It's like dream-worthy, isn't it? It's dream-worthy.
It is still a dream. There was 1 week, it was a week of that Broadcast Sport Award. And I'd done the Monday night, I'd done the Papua New Guinea. And the thing for me is I was covering more of the men's games than the women's games, which kind of made me feel worthy of what I was doing. Because it wasn't tokenism, and it wasn't just there because I was a woman. I was there on merit.
Yeah, because you can do the job, yeah.
And so I'd gone from, I was in Doncaster doing the Papua New Guinea game on the Monday night, drove to Manchester. BBC Morning Live had put me on this beautiful hotel on Monday night because I was on BBC Morning Live with Gethin Jones on the Tuesday morning. Completely dolled up by hair and makeup, was live on Morning Live. I then dashed back to Leeds to get a train with my producer to go down to London for this red carpet event and stay in a beautiful hotel in Knightsbridge. Left London, dashed straight back to York to commentate for Whisper for the New Zealand-Australia game. Had Thursday off, I think. Friday, I was over at Wigan for the Wigan game for the England game on women's double header with the men on the Saturday. Saturday night, drove down to London because Sunday I was doing the double header at the Copper Box for the wheelchair rugby.
Nice.
Like,
no, it's class, isn't it?
Not a sustainable lifestyle, but for that week, I was like, I am a TV star today. But again, whirlwind, absolute, complete and utter whirlwind.
You mentioned York there as well, and what a job Clint's doing at York. I know I messaged you, I spotted him in the background, but what a guy, but what a job he's doing up there.
Yeah, so we'd kind of connected on social media, had a bit of a chat, and I'd been like, do you know what? Whether I like York or not as a team, in the sense that rivalries, that happens.
Yeah.
Like, you're undeniable what you're doing for the women's game. Completely undeniable. Like how you've put them on a pedestal, a new branding, so they've got their own identity. I kind of like the idea that a team is the same team, but I understand what he's done with that. He's given them their own, paying the girls, and we kind of chatted a bit. We'd met at then I'd met at a game last season. We then met at the women's launch this year, and then literally last week we met properly at the Leeds York game for the women. We'd sat for the 2 games chatting away, bit of banter, and then that's when I really learned like what a businessman and what a genuinely great bloke he is, and what he wants to do.
Yes,
for the
some
club.
boss ideas, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then invited me and my friends up to his Women in York brunch yesterday for the game, but unfortunately, I don't know which way to look at it. I ended up working.
Yeah.
But he just had my 2 friends there, bottomless brunch for the day, watching the rugby and wining and dining the women of business and sport. And what a great initiative, to get that, and what a great bloke. And if we can all take a little piece of him and what he's doing for the women's game, and even just put 5-10% of what he's doing into the game would be a better place.
Yeah, well, right. Got a few daft questions for you.
Let's go.
So, any pre-match superstitions?
I eat the same meal for my dinner and for my breakfast.
Right.
So pasta, stuffed tortellini, spinach and ricotta with a mascarpone sauce with a steak. Nighttime before. Then proper council estate breakfast. A can of spaghetti hoops and sausages, Asda's own. 2 slices of thick white bread. Warburton's orange bread. 2 boiled eggs.
Right. Yeah. Fair dues.
And then I'd take a banana with me.
Right. It's class that, by the way. Council breakfast.
Proper council breakfast.
So the toughest player you've played with and against, the definition of toughest is different for everybody.
Andrea Dobson. You would not want to run at her in a game. You were always grateful you were on a team for England, like playing against her. I would worry about playing against her days before I'd have to play against her. Toughest mentally, physically, and as a leader, she was my captain at England. The toughest person I'd want to lead that team out, like in any context. Wearing that badge was probably the most proudest moment of her life, and and she wore that pride. You could see the pride. You could visually see the pride and how she conducted herself on and off the field, and how hard she worked. But Jesus Christ, when you came against her, when you played against her, you knew about it. And there was nobody better. I've not played against a better player.
Right. So your favourite away ground, and it can't be Headingley because I know how much you love it.
Well, that's not away ground. That's not a home ground.
Do you know what though? Joking aside, Headingley is always picked. I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10. People just say it has something about it.
I think it comes down to as well just the stuff that people don't see. So the changing room facilities, like you go to some grounds and like Hull KR and Wakefield are known, aren't they, for getting in your head by the time you get, because the change rooms are so bad. But I was thinking about this, and it's quite difficult because the places I've played. So when I played in the World Cup, I played at Cronulla Sharks, and when I played at Rugby Union, I played at Twickenham. They're not away grounds. They're just great stadiums I've played at. So my away ground has probably got to be Totally Wicked Stadium, because we'd always end up playing Saints in a really crucial game there. So it'd always be like a semi-final. Like, bloody hell, going to Totally Wicked against Saints for the crucial game, or we won the grand final there. And I think we've gone there and had lots of successes that we shouldn't have really had. Great stadium and great facilities anyway, but I think in terms of the pressure we'd put on ourselves to go out there and do a job whilst going to the Totally Wicked and actually doing it. So I think the success we've had whilst going there is probably why I'd pick that to be my favourite away ground.
I don't know, not a bad reason either. So say you found them craft ales and you like your wines now, the microphone thing in hand, you don't need backing singers. What are you giving us on the karaoke?
I'm Beyonce or Whitney, because the only time you're going to get me on one when I've had a few. And I'd have to say Beyonce, Love on Top. You'll get the full performance.
Brilliant. Do you like lean in for a bit of crowd, or is it just you?
I don't need contributions.
Yeah.
You can watch. You can contribute with your cheers.
Admire. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, when I go, I'm in. Doesn't happen very often, and it takes me quite a bit to get to the table.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And If you could go back and tell a younger you something from what you've learned so far, what would it be?
Start rugby earlier. I wish I'd started rugby league 10 years earlier. And it's not necessarily because I wouldn't get what I've got now, because obviously I'm too old for that now, but maybe I could have been in another World Cup. Maybe I could have been in the team that went to New Zealand, and I could have just been a better all-round player. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that it's not regret. There's nothing I could do about that because I didn't know it was there, but it was if I'd have looked a bit harder, I guess. But just start playing rugby league a lot earlier, because even without the media side of stuff and the stuff I've got after retirement, the stuff that I got out of playing and with the girls that I got on with and the girls that I played with was mega, second to none. And some of my bestest friends come out of playing rugby league, and I'll be forever grateful for what that sport has given for me.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, the game's great, but the relationships are better, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and only just.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I'd have played 10 years earlier, you know, what I could have gone.
No, that's it, and it is. It's hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. So if you're willing to, a 1 to 13 that you played with.
Right. This was quite a tough one. So I had to write bits down. Let me find it.
Right.
I think my number one would have to be curveball here. I'd put Jodie Cunningham at number one, even though now she's more known for being
well, a loose forward, a pivot loose forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 would be Kaylee Bullman, who's now at Hull KR.
Right.
3 would be Sarah Dunn.
Yeah.
4 would have to be Amy Hardcastle, undisputedly one of the best centres there's ever been. And 5 would be Sophie Robinson, good old Leeds teammate of mine, and I think definitely should have been in the fringes of the England squad, but a great winger. 6, probably Kirsty Maroney. Played with her at England. And 7, without a shadow of a doubt, Courtney Winfield Hill.
Right.
Am I in this 13, or is it I'm the coach?
Yeah, no, you can be. Yeah.
I've got it with
you kick it as well.
Oh, obviously, I'm always kicking. I'd take the 8 spot then. And I just put somebody on the bench. 9 would be Lois Forsell. 10 would probably be Emma Slow. 11 would be Beth Sutcliffe.
Yeah.
12 would be Emily Rudge. And 13 and captain would be Andrea Dobson.